Hello, and welcome to Spotlight, recorded live here on Grapple Patreon, which for me is the 1st of July 2025. Oh, 1st of July over in the UK as well. I'm Benno.
And I'm JP.
And yeah, it is very late in the evening here. I've just got off recording a Benno and Hamflet. We were over there discussing one of the things that we're probably going to be talking here a lot, which is the feeds. And obviously you'll have noticed there was no music. That is by design. If you've gotten this far and you can hear us, as I said over there as well, you've done well. You're better than the vast majority, it seems, of podcast listeners who've not quite managed to find us yet across the feeds. But yeah. You should hopefully be hearing our voices crystal clear. We'd even say it quietly, JP. We're back on Spotify. If anyone asks, it's not us. It's basically I should have done like the Grapple podcast logo with a little mustache on it to try and cover for it. We're just another podcast that's also called Grapple Spotlight. That's on Spotify. We're not the one that they took down. It's a new page with a new URL, so it can't possibly be the same people. But yeah, with that plausible deniability, we're back everywhere. You just might need to do a little bit of work to find us.
Exactly. So, welcome to Spottle Graplite. And it'll be good, and it's familiar to another podcast, but you don't need to worry about the details of that as well. But yeah, keeping them sweet. There's times where I'm tempted to push the boundary on this, but no, you're completely right to play it safe this time round for it. So yeah, El Grapple Americano.
It was actually coincidentally it was the El Grapple episode that ended up taking us down. But yeah, it's been a hard couple of weeks. Obviously, I've mentioned it. The patrons know quite well the battle we've gone through. If you've gotten this far, maybe you're watching us on YouTube. Maybe you found the episode somewhere lying around on Podbean or somewhere. There should be in the description to this episode a bit of a guide as to how to find us back on Acast and others there. But really, to be honest, it's an elaborate ploy, JP, to get people on the Patreon, because if they go to patreon.com/grapple, they get all the episodes. None of them have been taken down, even on Spotify through the Patreon Spotify feed. I think there's some technicality that kept that all there feed up and running. We're still over there, all the back catalogs there as well, which is another thing we've had to lose on this brand new Acast / Red Circle feed that we've got. So yeah, if you want all the back catalog, all that stuff, it's no better way. Even if you join for free, you get it there as well. So it might be just for peace of mind if this ever happened again. We're always going to be over there. Hopefully our Patreon overlords are never going to take us down, although Matty tried his hardest with the quiz this weekend.
He has. Luckily for us, they Patreon don't seem too bothered with all of that stuff. But if you want all of that goodness, and it just leads nicely into the plugs, patreon.com/grapple. Where are you going to get there? You're going to get all of the back episodes of it. And my God, there are lots. A shit ton of Patreon shows as well, Patreon special shows, which includes the aforementioned Grapple Pub quiz, which we had the first one that Matty hosted on Sunday.
Mate. That was a whirlwind through the history of the WWF/WWE. To count as two different promotions, there were two covered, but outside of that, there weren't many other non-fed questions that Matty wheeled out for us. So yeah, we very much should we spoil who the winners and losers are? Maybe people should listen for themselves. They might beat our scores. Connor obviously doing the Lord's work with his spreadsheet work and background work that he was doing to keep it running so everyone can play along. You can even listen to it now if you don't know the answers to the questions or how we did and play along as if you were there live was in the chat. I think that would be the most fun way to do it and the best way to get through Matty's ridiculous questions, such as name all the natural born thrillers, which was a harder battle than it seems.
I think. I mean, again, I don't want to. Am I allowed to ruin that one particular question, or shall I just save that for another time? Well, you find out if you go and listen to it. Don't cheat. We didn't cheat. That one on that, I think you got 6 out of the 7. Like, I think I thought
5. Reno and Horseshoe were the same man. For some reason, I was just convinced that they were the same bloke. I feel like I've played a trick on my brain over the years. And I met Reno as well. Or maybe it was Horseshoe / Luther Reigns that I met outside the WCW house show. I'm pretty sure it was him. The one that did the roll of the dice. Although maybe they both did it.
That's right. Oh my God, Luther Reigns. There was a point in time I thought, well, this bloke's going to be the next big star. But yeah, it was. I mean, that quiz was very much inside the brain of Matty. So it was like, let's talk about some Grapple favourites, and it was just like, first question, Randy Orton, mid 2000s, and you're like, for fuck's sakes, man. Like straight away. So
second question, Edge, mid 2000s. It went as you imagine.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it wasn't any of our New Japan favorites, but it's really good fun and really good fun to play along with it. And Connor doing the absolute Lord's work again, having it up in the Discord that's also free to join. You'll find the links at the bottom of this episode as well. So yeah, really great time. Really enjoyed doing it. We're going to do these once every sort of hopefully couple of 2-3 months, and then yeah, each hosting a different one on that. So yeah, we now know what is the good way of doing it. What's the way of doing it so it works for a watching audience as well? But everyone seemed to be really enjoying themselves, and
we figured it out on air.
Really,
as the chat was saying, we built the plane as we flew. We built the plane as we were 20 minutes into the journey. But that's just how we do things on Grapple. You know, you get to see how the sausage is made. Well, maybe another podcast who could.
Exactly, it makes for an interesting plane ride. That's what it is. You don't want to. Who wants that kind of like glossy professionalism, for God's sakes? If you do, watch Time, which is also on the Grapple feed, because then we go into quiz shows every 3-4 months on that, particularly the quiz shows of Bonk Monkhouse, who is the most prime performer for that type of stuff. So yeah, that is up on there as well. And I know you've been setting up the July schedule as well. So all the goodness that we've got coming up for this month.
Little bit up in the air with the July schedule. Obviously, you might have expected with us doing mostly a WWE pay-per-view review here, but it's me and JP, so I think that might be half an hour of the show, and then we're going to be talking the stuff we actually want to talk about on top of that after it. But obviously, you might notice Matthew's not here as he normally would be for these shows. He's had some real life stuff come up he's got to take care of, but he's all good. So yeah, we'll miss him on this show, but also miss him as the Grapple schedule. We haven't fully nailed down the July schedule. I can tell you what I know for certain because he announced it yesterday on the pre-show, is that the story of the European titles show is going to be kicking us off in July as we look through the notable European title reigns and some of the not so notable ones, which Connor will be helping us out with. I can also formally announce, I mentioned Benno and Hamflet there, that we were just getting one in the can for Bash at the Beach 1996. We're going to be doing as a flashback this month with me, Matty, and Michael Hamflet getting back together and looking at the other side of the coin of what me and Hamflet have been covering literally to date over there on housekeeping and the main In Your House pods. Like, we literally just got to June 96, got into July of 1996. We've got an international incident show coming out soon as well, which is the real big 6-man tag of July 1996. Not this who was the third man, JP? It wasn't Mabel, it was Psycho Sid. That might make that the answer to one of my quiz questions when I take over the Grapple quiz. But yeah, thought it'd be fun to get Michael back on our side, on the baddies side, I think, on the WCW side. So we'll see the alternate slice of history with him coming up, as well as either a 5-1 or a Ask Grapple. I'll just say it out loud. That's what me and Matty need to figure out. I think we're going to do a 5-1, but we could chuck an Ask Grapple in July as well. If not, there'll be one in August. And then we got Connor's King of the Mountain show coming up as well. So yeah, plenty of good stuff.
Plenty of goodness coming up this month. A big month as well, because obviously a lot of the spotlights, there's some big shows coming up this month as well. So we're going to be doing a lot of All In coverage. Obviously Slammiversary as well, the real big July show at the end of the month, and all roads then leading to. I'm trying to think, is there another WWE shows? No, there wouldn't be, would there? You go straight into
SummerSlam in August, first week of August. You know, got that to maybe got the long build to that. There's a Saturday night's main event coming up, which we'll be talking about a little bit today. But yeah, more TV specials. But yeah, we'll be covering it all on Spotlight
Evolution.
Weekend show and everywhere else. Oh yeah, that's obviously All In weekend, of course. Just a coincidence that Evolution is going on as well as a Saturday night's main event and that whatever that NXT show is in the afternoon. Very busy stuff.
Exactly, cheeky bastards in there as well. But yeah, no, we very rarely do we find myself doing stuff like covering the Saudi shows as well. So I'm intrigued to see how.
I thought you had it off, mate. It was supposed to be me and Matty last night. Again, hence my double recording in the air. It is 2:45 a.m. Here in Vietnam at that time of recording. So I'm a bit dusty. Yeah. That's why. But yeah, prime hours for me, mate. This is where I get my prime stuff done.
Exactly. So if you find us like sort of, going at a bit of a pace for this, just remember it's silly o'clock in Vietnam. So like the fact that you're awake, like I'd be getting up at this time and I'd be slightly livid about it and I'd have CBeebies on which I'm slightly disappointed to have on in the background. But yeah, that would be that'd be what would be going on there.
I'm all right here. I've got the noise of the karaoke going on over there. There was some K-pop band were on. I don't know who they were, but there was a lot of people in the streets outside me. So the karaoke's still going, so the party's still going here, at least for a couple of hours. So you'd have me either way. I'd only be sat up watching the 24-hour Peep Show channel on me dodgy box, JP. So why not be here talking wrestling? Or I could be watching EastEnders and Corey. Or was it Corey and Emmerdale that said they were going on YouTube this week?
I saw that Corey and Emmerdale
story. Yeah. Is that to do with the crossover show that they're doing? Maybe I can get that over here. Maybe that's there you go. I don't need to log into any UK streaming services. That's doing me head in, by the way. I'm starting to realize like the VPN life of trying to log into Netflix to do my Benno and Hamlet homework tonight was more headache than it was worth. The iPlayer still asks me if I've got a TV license despite being all the way out here, and then goes, you're not in the UK, so you can't get on. Not that I've ever tried before, mate. The ITV player can't even get that to load. So yeah, YouTube is the answer. As Robert said in our Discord, the soaps are more wrestling every day. Moving over to a stream on YouTube, do you think they'll get the weird like Saturday night's main event like little jingle going in each ad break? Maybe that would work
I think
well
it will
for the ATV audience, and then they'll have people on soap podcasts like Matty going, "Well, what you expect? You've got to have adverts. It's normal."
Well, they better not play any music in the Rovers' return or the Woolpack in that case as well, because they'll find themselves getting into a shit load of trouble if they end up doing that. But it's almost like, did they have a look at what MLW were doing, and they were going, well, I don't know, what's Court Bauer doing here? Well, he's just sticking them up on YouTube, right? That's what we're doing. But this is going to be apparently a very permanent thing. That it is going to be. Okay. They're going to be available on YouTube from 7 a.m. the same day they're on TV. This is according to Digital Spy, but there's going to be a crossover episode in the works with an hour-long special there as well. The invasion, basically, who invades who will be kind of intriguing. And
so the cord cutters got to the soaps. Like, you'd think that would be the last domino to fall, wouldn't you? You know, live sports has been the other big go-to, but like, yeah, I guess I'm not in tune. I used to follow, so that used to always be my comeback, you know, and people would say, "Oh, why are wrestling fans always going on about the numbers and the TV ratings and stuff?" It's like, honest, Digital Spy, as you mentioned there, where Steph does some work. Like, if you go to their forums, it is literally that. When I first met Steph and found out she worked there, I was like, "What? It's a website now?" Because in my day, Digital Spy was just a forum where people would argue about TV ratings and argue about who was winning the TV war between EastEnders, Corrie, and Emmerdale. And I guess in today's war, yeah, like everything else, mate, it's switched to streaming. The kids aren't watching it live anymore. I know Steph's doing that. I think she's working her way through EastEnders the full year since January, I think, to catch up. That used to always happen to me. Like, EastEnders was always my soap of choice, and then I'd always because you get into it for a couple of days, but like oral like wrestling, after a couple of episodes, say you had some plans on like a Thursday night, you'd miss one, and then you'd catch up in the omnibus, and then the next week maybe you'd go away, and then you'd miss one, and you'd try and catch up in the omnibus, and then back like a couple of months in, I'd be like, I just can't keep up with it. There's too much of it. Like wrestling, too much content. All the soap is there a soap spotlight out there complaining that there's too many hours of it, and now YouTube and this crossover is going to make it even worse.
I think they will do these, and it'll make it difficult now because they'll have to change their ratings discourse when they're discussing the old 18 to 49, won't they? On that, so that's
49 plus, surely, for the soaps. Like, it's got to be. It's got to be
plus at this stage.
But there's wrestling, same thing, isn't it? Same thing. Yeah. That's where the core audience actually lies.
Is Steph watching every episode of EastEnders?
What you said there, in the chat, yeah.
Is this to do with the return of Zoe Slater has just inspired her to go, I'm going to do the lot?
It's the new boom.
We're in the 7th month of the year. Like, that's a lot of it. I mean, I've never met Steph's mum. I get the impression, though, she's game for this project. Like, you know, in the way that wrestling fans do, don't they? They find a project. Let's watch every All Japan show from 1996. Now, I don't think Steph's mum's doing that. But every episode of EastEnders, I think that's something she could very much.
She's cool. She was watching Glastonbury at the weekend. Sorry, this is far too much information. Steph's going to kill me. But I know they were watching Glastonbury at the weekend, as I'm sure you were, to watch your boys' kneecap, which I think did make it onto the iPlayer eventually. Good for them.
It did. It did as well. And I was saying, ban this sick filth. The moment they were saying that as well. And so were all the free speech libertarians as well, who call people snowflakes when when they complain about something they don't like, and they seem to very much change their tune on this one as well. Either you're a free speech advocate or you fucking ain't.
Side note,
you can have it both ways.
I went to an Australian bar this week, and it was like a meetup, like for there's like a YouTube channel I follow, and I knew one of the guys, so I went along, and like this Aussie bloke walks into the bar, literally he's like, "Oh, where are you from?" And I was like, "England," and he was like, "Oh, England, or do you mean Islamabad?" I was like, "Oh,
for
one of them, aren't you?"
sake.
Like straight away, and like I moved away from it because I guess that just goes in Australia. You're allowed to just say stuff like that. I moved tables over. Eventually, ended up coming back after having a coffee. Sat there. He was in the middle of a conversation with another Aussie bloke, going, "Did you know there are 182 genders now? Isn't that ridiculous?" This is what real people talk about in real life. This is just I've walked. This is why I've spent the last 2 months only speaking to you guys on podcasts and not speaking to people in real life, because that's the types of conversations you get into with people in real life. I can only imagine what his thoughts were on Bob Villain or anything else that happened in Glastonbury this weekend. He was probably liking those Facebook posts and calling for the bans along with all the other anti-kneecap people.
I just assume he shot his telly or his phone or his laptop, whichever.
Facebook dad in the wild, totally.
Well. Oh, exactly. Yeah, it's a really strange thing. I mean, it is. It's so fucking. It also was parallel to people complaining about the woman who wrote about do you remember during the riots about burning down the hotel with the asylum seekers in as well? Yeah. And wanting her released from prison, going, it's freedom of speech, it's freedom of speech, it's freedom of speech. And it's like, it isn't. Daily Mail today just wrote a completely false headline. We were saying that they were chanting death to Israelis. There weren't. He was chanting death to the IDF. He even had it written on the fucking screen behind him as well. He wasn't away from any of this stuff as well. But it's an incredible thing. If you don't like something, it's mad idea. This switch it fucking off and watch something you do like. If it's that much of a problem, like I never understand this,
and that's why Matty doesn't watch Dynamite even when we review it. There you go. It all makes sense. It all ties together. Andy says here in the chat, never look at the local newspaper website. The comment section is normally very national, but it's full of people called like Debbie, and like all those names of a certain generation, isn't it? Stuff like that.
There are people in the Oxford Mail. They
Angela's.
kick off. Yeah, they kick off about this. Like, somebody could die in a car crash and go, "This bastard delayed me for half an hour on the A34 today," and I'm just like, "Someone died here, lads. No, we're just gonna let that fucking slide as well." Oh my god, absolutely.
The other thing I say, like people say it here as well. Steph's pointing out, by the way, that her mum's not an EastEnders fan. She's too cool. I'll let Steph defend her next time we have her on here on Grapple Live, which will be continuing maybe Thursday this week with another guest. But I'll have Steph back on that very, very soon. But yeah, people do. It's funny, like the people who like to be offended the most are the people who would point out that everyone else gets offended. Like again, literally the same bloke. Last thing I'll say on him, he's turned into a main character here on the podcast. He said something else about and you just get loads of asylum seekers. They get free hotels over there. That's what I've heard. And I was like, I mean, I feel like they've had a hard life, don't you think? Like, the people who are in that position who get put in those hotels. He's like, "Oh yeah, I'm sure it's really bad." And I was like, "There's no way that was the intro to the conversation. That's no way what he's saying in the Facebook comment. It's the same when you have those conversations with taxi drivers. I think that's like the sounding you're out, trying to see if you're on board or not. He didn't talk to me again after that. That was the end, unfortunately. But there we go. But yes, Steph says her mum did like kneecap, so there you go. She is cool. So
watch the film. I think
I need
to
watch it yourself.
Absolutely
fantastic.
Cracking.
Yeah, brilliant.
Absolutely cracking.
Can't see the music being up your street.
Oh no, I've got HOOD on the Spotify player. I think that's an absolutely fucking belting song. The song they play right at the very end over the end credits as well. And it did inspire me enough to start and not continue with learning Irish on Duolingo as well. Yeah. So, I've completely forgotten even how to say the phrases, which were very much about.
Do you not say goodbye either at the end of the show?
Oh God, I can't even go that far. Jesus Christ, I will look it up though.
It's all right, mate. You got an hour off yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
He says, as we said, we were going to rush him with 20 minutes in talking about kneecap
exactly.
Other things. Connor's right. Why would you go abroad and be offended by foreigners? You're the foreigner. Anywho, that's a life lesson this week. Don't talk to people, but I did have a fun time. We watched a bit of UFC. It was me and the rest of the lads were cracking. So good times were had. Steph's saying the same. She's downloaded the Duolingo as well. A lot of people learning Irish out there, following along with you, JP. But speaking of international events, I don't know if there's a segue there. We do need to get into what we are here to talk about, and I think it's good to have you on, JP. And obviously, we didn't get a chance to get your thoughts on weekend show about a few matters, and one of those matters is probably the thing we have to kick things off with today, and it's unfortunately CM Punk and his embarrassing weekend. I don't know if you saw the amazing write-up that Brandon Thurston has done over on Post Wrestling, which, you know, for the idiots at the back and the type of people you might run into in Facebook comments, being sarcastic, folks. He kind of points it out in the article, but it's a very good takedown of CM Punk and where we find them. But how can we categorize this any other way, JP, than CM Punk's embarrassing weekend? Because when me and Matty talked about it on Friday, like, it just happened. He'd just done the apology. And do you listen to the wrestling news with Mike Sempervive? I tend to throw that on in the mornings, but I saw him picking up Dave Meltzer, you know, alluding to it potentially being pre-planned. He even picked up, speaking of great Neils, they're not all bad. Arman Neil and Waiting on Post Wrestling, they were obviously clipped talking about the possibility. I don't think it's been confirmed yet, but Meltzer's definitely alluding to it, that the apology that CM Punk gave at the press, not the presser, it's the what do they call it these days? The kickoff before the show was very much pre-planned. The fan who was docking a SmackDown cap and was loud enough that CM Punk could hear him all the way from where he is behind your head there. Meltzer saying that it seems likely that person was a plant by WWE, and it did at the time. We talked about it on Weekend Show. Like, I didn't quite say that out loud, and I'm not saying I definitely thought it, but it was a bit weird that, like, Punk didn't have to draw attention to him. Punk could have, if this was a shoot, just brushed. Like, how many individual fans get attention paid to them? Like, even if the whole crowd is booing, the usual course of action is just to carry on. So it doesn't surprise me to see that story out there, and I think that speculation is going to be proven to be true. So I mean, that adds to the embarrassment of CM Punk. Obviously, the apology to Saudi Arabia is a massive point of embarrassment this weekend, but obviously it continued with the SmackDown segments that happened after we recorded on Friday. We can talk about with basic Punkonomics. I know you threatened to use that as the intro to this, but again, even that might get us kicked off Spotify at this point. So we'll play it safe by now. Plus, nobody needs to hear it. I should just play the Gareth rap instead. That was far better than CM Punk's rap, and that's even before we get into the Night of Champions show and the last time ever between John Cena and CM Punk. But what was your reaction to the apology in the first instance? And I feel like it's got even staler over the weekend. And God, for a man who stands on his morals and is finding himself posting on his Instagram himself at all kinds of social justice events, coincidentally, since he got back from Saudi Arabia. Even his most hardcore fans, myself among them, can't really defend Punk at this point. And just have to call it an embarrassment and call it what it is.
It was embarrassing. It was completely embarrassing. And I'm going to use the point that Matty brought up on the weekend show, which was he just said, like, was he Phil the punk rock pro wrestler? Like, it was finally proven.
It's a gimmick, isn't
it? To be that gimmick. That's what it was. And it was just like it all came down, because if he didn't want to go there, he could have just said, I'm not going. It's not like it's the A team and he'd be Mr. T and he'd be drugged and wake up in Saudi Arabia. So, like, he didn't have to go. It would cause grief. It would cause fucking friction. But he did. He decided to go. And even when he was there, I think the people expect, like, the argument. I remember I think it was a point you brought up as well about him going out there and saying, "Oh, I'm gonna. It's not the people of Saudi Arabia. It's just the regime." You can't say that there. You can't. There's a journalist, relatively mild stuff, whose fate. Has he been executed? Certainly,
a few weeks ago.
He has.
Yeah, it was over historic tweets where he criticised the Saudi government and a few other, powerful people, and literally executed 3 weeks ago.
That's it. But what does this all come down to? It comes down to the fact that these Saudi shows are more profitable than every WrestleMania combined. I think is something along those lines. Just the amount of, and it was the way that he did this as well. It was just performative bullshit, which you've always said the point, and I say this as a massive fucking CM Punk fan, yeah, because he is a compelling figure, but he's full of shit and he's an arsehole. That's just who he is. It's how he's always been with this. So him doing this apology, I just thought the moment he was there, it was like they were gonna make sure this happened. I think what makes it kind of worse is the Paul Levesque being proud of him for doing that,
patting him on the head.
It's like it's a man in his late 40s, like proud of him for basically towing the company line on this, like for a match that didn't need to exist in Saudi Arabia. You could have just plugged, I don't know, fucking LA Knight into it, and what difference would it have bloody made ultimately in the scheme of things? People would have reacted, probably not reacted as strongly about this, but I think in terms of it being a plant, doesn't surprise me in the slightest. I think there's an element of WWE, like you say, of just going, you're going to eat shit and like the taste of this. We're going to just make you do this. And like, that's, and he did. He went along quite happily with all of this stuff. And it's I say somewhat depressing, just to see somebody do this and then try and then go to, what was it? It was a rally in terms of some like trying to close down a gender affirming clinic. I think it was it.
Yeah, which is a good, and we're all hypocrites in life, aren't we? We all make decisions. It's I always say it, like it's the type of thing a Newcastle fan will tell you. If you say they're playing with blood money, they'll go, but what about you're logged into Twitter? But what about Facebook? Or what about society?
You have a phone.
All of that stuff. Like, and the degrees of truth to that. Like it's ridiculous in some examples, but broadly speaking, there is some truth to that. But like, I think it's because Punk made the rod for his own back by saying the things he'd say. And it wasn't just, the line about the Miz on Twitter. It was obviously he'd done, that podcast appearance where he did outright say he'd never go to Saudi Arabia. And it was the alluding to, like you say, him being a good boy on the right side of all social justice. And, if anything, using, the issue of Saudi Arabia to get himself over, to have a go at the Miz. Because again, as he, was quoted as saying on Friday, he apologized to the Miz. He apologizes to all of Saudi Arabia. And you're right, it's hard he can't stand up on that stage and say, I didn't mean you, I meant him. He's never going to say that, but he didn't even leave himself the room to get on safe ground and say that, and again, nobody made him go. He's gone willingly. Meltzer's quote about, this being pre-planned says, whether he was asked to do the apology or wanted to do it isn't clear. We also don't know if we got a bonus for going. But he clearly was willing to do it, and it clearly is something based on those Triple H comments that you mentioned there. The company are happy he did. Like, I can imagine Triple H grinning ear to ear backstage, because that's been it's been out there in the open. That's been the narrative. The narrative hasn't been CM Punk has gone back to WWE and hasn't the place changed, and isn't CM Punk was right all along when he walked out. The narrative that Triple H repeats over and over again is Phil has grown as a person, and Phil has learned, like, basically that he was wrong in 2014, and Punk kind of plays into that too, because as we talked about on Weekend Show, like at this point, and as Garrett will constantly say, he's about the money. He's about, getting the most money he can out of this WWE run. And that SmackDown segment, proves it as well. These are all things. Obviously, the Saudi trip and doing the Cena match in Saudi, and whatever decision they came to make that happen there that we're going to get into is one thing. But he could have said no to that. But on a smaller scale, this angle where he's coming out doing a fucking rap, like, and the man who literally, like, his gimmick, and it was a gimmick, as we know, is that he's the most authentic person on planet Earth. Like, he knows this sucks. Like, this is the type of thing when he was on that Fox show where he was ripping apart angles that WWE doing week to week, and then coincidentally he loved the Roman Reigns dog food angle. This feels a little bit like that, where it's like, the real Phil does pop his head out every now and then, and will tell you, because he knows what's good and he knows what's bad. Like, I felt like halfway through that angle he just gave up. Like, there was a half where it was like he came out and I was watching it going, this isn't as bad as people said. I watched it the next day. I was like, I can kind of get it. It's kind of it's the type of angle you book in EWR. I'm sure they had an angle pack, at least on TEW, where you could do, wrestler does, impression of opponent, and that's, a standard wrestling angle. And there might have been a way to turn it on its head and make it, work for the CM Punk character. But halfway through that angle, he's just rapping. He's just literally, he's doing WWE scripted nonsense. Like half of the lines he's saying, mentioning Kendrick and stuff like that. Like, I don't think he was coming up with that himself. I feel like he's gone to the writers and they've given him these lines. Maybe the odd thing he threw in there about Cena's ball spot was, and the odd time he slowed down to talk a bit, felt a little bit more authentic Phil. But for the most part, he was a WWE performer doing WWE lines, and we've talked that over this last run when he's came back, and I've talked about like knowing that's the reality, but still getting enjoyment out of 60% of or 70% of CM Punk that we still got on TV. But I feel like the accumulation of this weekend, going to Saudi in the first place, doing the apology tour, and then like doing this angle, it just felt like halfway through that angle, it was almost like the realization hit him, and it was just like, yeah, I'm like every other wrestler. I'm going to perform my lines. I'm going to do what I do. And I think in his heart of hearts, he knows this sucks, and he knows he should have said no to it. And maybe he knows somewhere deep down that some of this stuff feels like almost like a revenge tour by the WWE and Triple H. Some of this feels like they're having a grand old laugh at his expense and just seeing if he'll dance if the right amount of cash in front of him.
That's it, Dave. They recognise the situation he's in, and I was thinking when you were saying that, I was like, my God, how far are we away from when he appeared on that episode of Collision? And it was just like kind of like unbridled Phil, just going out there like delivering that.
Which he'd say now that was the bit. It's quite funny, isn't it? Because now he'd say, no, that was the lie. I was because I was in front of those fans. I was lying about. I was just angry about it. I didn't mean what I said. It's like, and then in 5 years when he goes back to AEW, he's probably going to switch it again, isn't he? And switch to the other side. That's a worker, isn't it? That's exactly what it is.
But I think there's this recognition from like, well, it's the obvious thing. Like, is he cashing in? Absolutely. This is the last major run he can have at his age, and you've got to take the age into consideration as well, and physical ability, because it didn't take much for him to break down, for him to have a big money run. And this is where he's going to have it. And why is that the case? Because he's burnt a bridge with AEW. Now, would AEW have him back in a few years' time? Probably, but he wouldn't have the leverage that he would have had when he first went there. That's all gone. So they're going to make him jump through these hoops, knowing full well that it'll go one or two ways. Phil will be Phil, or Phil will eat shit and learn to like the taste. And there we are. And I'm using a Triple H line that he used when he had the fucking after the curtain call, for God's sake. So shame on me for that. And that's the position that he's found himself in. Because really, this is the situation.
It's his only option, isn't it?
It is his only option, because is there a chance, like if you're thinking about if he wasn't in WWE and he wasn't in AEW, would there be a chance of a Jericho style deal in New Japan? Yeah, probably there would be that, but again, it'd be limited by just like his own physical abilities, and how long would he be able to do that for? Would it be worth the squeeze for New Japan, who aren't in financially the best place anyway? So he's trapped in effectively WWE. So he's just going to go along with this stuff. And it just it makes you think of what a lot of his run in WWE has been like. For the most part, apart from the higher points of the Drew McIntyre feud, of which Drew McIntyre was the better person, really, you would say objectively at times throughout that feud as well. It's not been great. This hasn't been like this is not classic CM Punk. We're kind of watching it, waiting for something to happen, but it's still.
I think he's going to give it to us. He's a man motivated by grudge. He doesn't want to give us that.
Do you think if he was smart, he'd just say, "Turn me heel, just turn me heel," so then I can.
I think that's coming.
Vent a bit. I think it is.
I think we will get that. But again, it's probably not going to be the version we want. It's going to be a modern. For what it's worth, WWE heel, he's going to play the game and play the system and look at the reactions he gets from the WWE fans at this point. Like, he's as over as he's ever been, despite what all us are saying, despite the hardcores, despite, us who, follows CM Punk his entire career. And, I've loved and hated him, over time. Like, and it's funny, like, I'm here, like, I think a lot of the weathered CM Punk fans you'll hear, I don't think it's defensive. I think there's a absolute, amounts of truth in this. I've kind of said, well, CM Punk going back to WWE was already like at that point. That's the point where you found out he was a phony. If you didn't know already, that's the point where, and it obviously, I said it, I think it was when I was talking to Steph. You go back to like the Colt Cabana podcast all those years ago. What did he say? Every other line: we should get paid more, we should get paid more, we should get paid more. He's always been a man driven by money. He was like that on the Indies. He was like that in ROH. A lot of these things aren't a surprise. And like you say, the moment he goes back to WWE, I think that should have been the eye-open moment. But it was kind of like it was, and we talked about it at the time. But I think what makes this a little bit different is that we are being slapped in the face by it. Like it is, it's right there in front of you that, CM Punk is, we've always known he's a hypocrite, but this is the loudest of him being a hypocrite. This is the clearest and most obvious he's been about, I will literally say and do anything this company wants for money. And again, whether it was a gimmick or not, and I guess it was a gimmick, his whole act for so long was, but I'm the authentic one, but I'm the one who'll speak truth to power. And as the Brandon Thurston article puts really well, I guess that's still true. It's just that power is switching, and it's based on, whatever situation he's in and what would benefit him most. And again, those long-term CM Punk fans are the fans who are kind of, maybe seeing Punk for what he is all this time would say that's always been the case, and that's always how he's been, and this is probably the most punk rock thing you can do at his grand old age if you read into a lot of Punk's punk rock heroes.
Yeah, this is the reality of the situation that he's in, and I think for me, and I don't know if you're the same thing, there is a perverse pleasure in this. Because this is a rod he's set for his own back ultimately at the end of it all, and he's like he has always been this person. I mean, he was from the moment he shoved the kid when he arrived in South.
That wasn't a good look either. We've forgotten about that now, haven't we? There's been so many other CM Punk headlines over the weekend that it's like, well, shoving the kid is that. But he's always been known for that too. Like it was right in front of camera. But like, there's so many stories. Like I said it. I've literally witnessed it. Like I know people who've witnessed it, who've had it done to him. Even going back to when he was on the Indies, he was always this man. It was always that. But it saved him to be the anti-authority rebel. And yeah, a lot of us fell for it. It's true. And that's just I suppose the lesson we learned, and we talked about around All In time. It's like, we don't want to be friends, like you said earlier, with our heroes, and you gotta treat your wrestlers and your favorites at arm's length. And I think that's couldn't be ever more true than this. But like I say, it's the extent of it, and the fact that it's just he's not even covering himself here. He's literally the Emperor's clothes are off. He's literally going out there, and Triple H is backstage pulling the strings as the puppet master, and patting him on the head as the proud dad. And usually Punk had enough fight in him to at least see the optics of that and not want that to be the narrative that's out there. And I'm sure he is. He's reading Reddit. He's probably not watching us, but he's listening to other podcasts. He's watching other people, and he's probably fuming. But I think he knows at this point his best revenge is to keep living well and keep making money off the WWE. And that man's stubborn to a fault. And I actually, to your point earlier, I don't see him going off the boil and having a big fight with Triple H backstage. We can hope for that. We can live for that. That would probably bring a lot of people's CM Punk love back, but I don't think it is. I think his best revenge he's going to see is, just taking his lumps and being a WWE superstar, and it might get him a world title program with Gunther coming up. So who are we to doubt?
Yeah, exactly. He's going to get those big and that's what he wants. He's
Goldberg. That'd be funny. I want to see that Goldberg versus Phil.
I'd be well up for that as well. And I was thinking as well when watching it, in terms of his own being like sort of a moral crusader, that's been for me really entirely stolen by Sami Zayn, who knows how to do it from within a system. In terms of he has,
I was going to make that point though.
Limited.
I'm not defending Punk, but like, I mean, people don't really say anything because like Sammy was literally banned from going, wasn't he? Like they didn't let Sammy go because of his, not even his nationality. It's his family's nationality, isn't it? Like it's literally, exactly that. And obviously the ongoing war in the region, like, and Kevin Owens like refused to go, didn't he, for a while because he wouldn't let Sammy go. But like the day they opened the doors, I mean, Sammy, he sees himself as like a hero to Arab people all over the world. So I guess that's his babyface of the situation, isn't it? But there's a hypocrisy there. I guess it's just because Punk's so loud on the other end that, like, Sami Zayn can have his cake and eat it too. And I think people believe him because he puts his money where his mouth is with other, things that he gets up to. Maybe Punk's, maybe, probably fuming, isn't he? That that Sammy gets away with it. Why don't I? But maybe it's that extra bit of nuance there.
Sami Zayn's always been very careful for like making sure that his point has always been about sort of like humanitarian aid. So it was humanitarian aid in Syria when the Saudis, I could be wrong on this, the Saudis were providing arms to the Assad regime at the time, who were using it on the Syrian people. And it's sort of similar in a way to Iran, like in Iran, in the sense where you make that there is this disconnect from like the mass population who are very young and want to rise up against like an autocratic regime. It's the same thing really in Saudi Arabia, but the way that Sami Zayn has done it is it's positioned as like, no, but I use this money in order to establish charities that then will supply like food and humanitarian aid to.
And he did
like,
early on donate his wages to charity.
region.
I don't know if he still does it because it's not bonus anymore, is it? It's just part of like the standard contract. But I mean, again, the man does a lot, so maybe that's the difference there. But yeah, we have to start there because it's more interesting than this fucking show. But it's Punk, isn't it? It was the same when he was in AEW. Every other week there'd be something, and now it is this reverse. Like, is this what it's like? It circles back to the Facebook dads conversation before. I'm sure the 50-year-old blokes called Keith on Facebook who were arguing about kneecap. I reckon 30 years ago, mate, they were loving all the rebel bands. You know what I mean? They probably loved the. I guess this would be the Sex Pistols. I don't know. That'd be 40, would they?
The Wolf Tones in Ireland. Yeah. They're proper rebels. Singing IRA.
It's like the lads being like, "Oh, Glastonbury, it's all gone political." I think it always was. Yeah. Even Glastonbury themselves have literally come out and said, "Oh, a line was overstepped there." Okay, but I guess they've become the dads too. It's wild, isn't it? But that's what happens over time. People change, I suppose. To defend for a little bit.
We all become more conservative as we get older, which is a very depressing thought. So I prefer to try not to think about it at this point in time. But that's, like I say, all of this stuff much
Keir
more
Starmer's
interesting.
makes sense.
God, don't. I
actually delete it. I'm probably going to delete it from Benno and Hamlet, but I literally compared Stone Cold Steve Austin's rise in 1986 to Donald Trump's. I was trying to make it in a positive way that he breaks the convention of what makes a baby face to some people. You know what I mean? He's doing things that like should be getting him booed, but for some reason endearing to more people. And the deeper I got into the analogy, I was like, I'm going to delete this part of the podcast. Probably, I think this is going to go. But I still feel like there was something there. But yeah,
I
maybe
think there's
Phil
something
and
there.
Trump, there's more.
I don't know. I think you should stick, but because I think that is the case. Like he's a baby face to the point where people outright copy him in terms of his behavior and how to deal with people and never apologizing and stuff like that. And that's like you're not taking
all the things that would be breaking the rules back in the day.
Yeah,
all the things that would be the heel have become to some the face. Not to me, just to be clear. I'm sure people know that. Simon saying here Phil hasn't changed. To reply to what we said before, you know what? Yeah, maybe he hasn't, and it's just the pieces around him have and what suits him has, and that's looking back on it, maybe what got exposed in his AEW run, and the way he ran Collision and the way he treated all those people on Collision that we're still dealing with the remnants of now.
I still maintain that a lot of his problem with the Bucks comes down to a merchandising thing and not making the kind of money that he would be expecting to make on that. And that's I've got no evidence to back that up at all.
No, I think the problem was Phil Brooks.
Yeah.
And I say that as the one who didn't like the way it was dealt with and thought there was some blame on the other side still, but a lot of blame of management. Again, we always centered Phil Brooks as the number one reason, even if the aftermath could have been dealt with. But I do see your point. But there we go. Anything more on Punk, Triple H, anything else he did? Again, just to reiterate it, how fucking bad was that rap? Like, that was awful. That was awful. Such a bad segment. Like, it was so bad. And the pipe bomb wasn't much better. Again, it was more the staging of it that I didn't like. I didn't mind some of, like, Cena's material, but, like, there's no way he thinks this stuff is good, because I definitely don't.
It's so sanitized, is the thing about it. There's nothing about it that feels like the original pipe bomb, because it was all of the other stuff that was on TV felt more like a guttural scream, even if it really wasn't. And there was an element of you can go out there and say whatever. He was still, in essence, saying things that you weren't used to hearing on WWE TV. So you're like, okay, that is interesting. This isn't. This is just a rip off of that. and so therefore it was never going to have that appeal. While Phil had a sleep on a table, on a Slim Jim's table, so he's sleeping on a branded table while all of this is going on as well, just to further sort of kick in the because punk rock, of course, known for its Slim Jim endorsements, isn't it? I mean,
you got to be careful when he's asleep, mate. He might wake up grumpy and send a mean tweet. Got to be very careful there. But obviously, that led into the show. We're going to talk a little bit about Night of Champions, and we might as well start there with the main event of Cena and Punk. Like, after all this, was it worth it? I mean, I said it from the start. Like, this match taking place on this show is just, again, the final nail in the coffin, or like the final little rib. I feel like the people behind the scenes are pulling on Punk, because the crowd were loud for the match, and I felt like it covered for the deficiencies of a 2025 version of CM Punk versus John Cena. Punk coming out in his full Chicago gear to kind of nod back to the Money in the Bank match, and then this crowd were loud like the fans in the Money in the Bank match, but I think they were loud in a very different way. It was more of the international party crowd type stuff, and I don't know, can we even break this match down? Because like a lot of stuff happened, and it ended up being and there was a couple of them on the show, every other WWE main event that you get, because all you're waiting for is for the SmackDown versus Raw game, or whatever they call it these days, to hit R2 or whatever button you hit these days to get the interference out. And it was it almost felt like a Bloodline rules match by the end of it. But I don't know, did you think anything of the work, despite the two bad promos that we had in the build, and all the controversy around it, and the interest in how people would react to Punk? And in fairness, they mostly cheered. There were definitely a few views still scattered around. His mate Muhammad was cheering him along and got himself a hug. But yeah, it was more a match to rubberneck than anything to see what it looked like in 2025. And yeah, it was fine until we got to the meaty stuff for me. And maybe that's all you could have expected.
That's it. Because my expectations were so low, because Cena in ring is so bad, and it's not like Phil is any real great shakes at this particular point in time. But did it deliver for what this audience have been kind of conditioned to want, which is the same as every WWE audience, which is entrances, moments, interference? Yeah, so it's kind of delivering sort of like easy red meat for an audience like that, who are going to lap up all of the bullshit that ended up happening. I mean, it wasn't good, but I had in my head about how fucking disastrous this could be. And Cena, I mean, like, I don't want to say like this would be up there at the higher end of the Cena run matches that we've had, but I'm probably throwing the wrong Killings match in that, and that was like fucking 3 minutes long, and none of them have been good. But this is met with the higher end of expectations that people had. But if we're giving it star ratings and stuff, you're probably going like 2, if that lower, like 2.5, because it was very
Punk versus Cena 2.5. That's the thing, though. Like this match style is just, it's muck, innit? Like, I guess it works in the buildings, it works for these crowds, but like I feel like, I don't know, like the most hardcore among us who we know of, are they not getting sick of it? Because like, what is the point in the first 50? Like, I almost feel pointless analyzing like the first 15 minutes of these matches. Like, they literally don't matter. It's basically indie matches, isn't it? It's basically like what used to be criticized as like the indie style, or as we'll often say, the Kurt Angle style in TNA, where it's like, all right, let's just get to the kickouts, lads. That's the most important stuff that happens. Because there was, some good back and forth between Cena and Punk, and some nods to, their previous matches and stuff like that. And like I say, I think it's damning with faint praise, but like, there is still that chemistry there. It's rough around the edges. There are a couple of ropey moments in there, but they do generally gel together quite well. Like when they're in there together still, which almost makes it somewhat of a shame that like this is, like I say, I could have accepted this if this was one match and they were gonna run it back, in Cena's last match, or in front of allow the crowd in a different way, a more raucous, partisan crowd for one or the other. But we're not. This is kind of what we're gonna get. Like hopefully a Carter and an Omega, isn't this? Which is basically a tribute match in a lot of ways. The anti-Okada open in 15 minutes. Human says there. I guess there's a bit of a comparison there. But like I say, the moment like it all starts to like kick off with Rollins turning up and fucking Bronson Reed, and Braun Breaker and like kind of like the whole thing with Cena taking out Little H, Charles Robinson, when he was sprinting out. I
That
did
was
get
funny.
a bit of a four out of that. I did laugh. And then Punk and Cena, being assisted by, speaking of him, Sami Zayn and Penta coming out, and Punk and Cena kind of teaming up, once the numbers were down to briefly fight up Rollins and Reed. But then you end up with basically that, not again the cinema moments. We got one of them in the Solo and Jacob match where it's like we have to recreate the Cena and Cody hug, and he has to pull again. This is Cena, and this is the problem with Cena. I find it strange that I've ever I enjoyed Ricky Stenicki. I've enjoyed other performances today. What's that one where the kids are where they're babysitting them or something like that? It's about all the parents.
Blockers.
A big group. That one. He's good. He does good performances, but when left to his own devices,
he's fucking great.
There you go. Never watched it, but I believe you. But he's so hammy. He is so fucking hammy, and he is so he just kills any moment like that where it's he's literally looking at the camera, telling you this is a callback. Remember this? Remember when this happened? And again, I guess maybe to your point earlier, the crowd oohed and awed at the moment because they knew what was coming. Is it a callback if we just do the same thing again? I guess it is. Punk counters him from trying to low blow him and is smarter than that, but still gets cut off by Rollins because we've got to endlessly do Rollins and Punk. It's just muck, in it, really. It's just muck. And again, another cheap Cena match finish with Punk getting taken out with the Money in the Bank briefcase, and yeah, there you go. Cena wins, and it's I just don't feel like I saw anything. I saw anything special, and I think that's by design. It's by this genuinely special match that who would have believed we would be getting again in 2025 had to fucking take place here, had to take place under these circumstances, and had to take place, in the midst of this all-time bad Cena heel run. I'd probably go lower than 2.5, maybe 2. It was just, it was never going to be what it was, and again, that's probably going to be true of a Carter and Omega, but does it have to be this slop? Maybe if Matty was here, he'd defend it, but I don't think any of our listenership would.
No, and I think the thing about this as well is doing it here, it just felt it was all as much even the match itself to that certain degree was kind of overshadowed by the Phil Brooks humiliation tour, just because of that being the thing that seemed to take precedence in some of the build up in the first few. What's the wacky stuff we can get Phil to do, as we've been speaking about at the beginning? If it was in the States, it would have had probably a bit more heart and emotion if they'd managed to do it, but it was only ever going to go one way with all of the fucking interference.
It's only ever going to be an exhibition in this.
Yeah.
And even if there was the little bit of the meat of the how they're going to react to Punk type stuff, outside of that, it was still going to be a tribute. Sue Williams makes the point in the chat here. He is right. Omega Okada could both have broken legs and have a match that was better than this. I agree. They couldn't put a match on this bad if they tried. It's more is it going to be the equivalent for them as a 3.5 star match, and we'd all be fuming that it wasn't 5.
They could do it blindfolded, literally blindfolded, and it would probably be as good, if not better, because they'd somehow work out a way of kind of making it funny. And I'm talking about lazy Okada here.
3.75 is probably the minimum, isn't it, for that? I think.
Yeah,
ceiling might not be much higher, but maybe it is, and I'd love for it to be higher. Maybe we'll find out. Maybe Okada's still got it in him.
That's it. And I think there was probably the sense that
take bets on it.
That I thought the crowd seemed so overexcited with a lot of the kind of run-ins and stuff, because this feels like this is all stuff that's going to build up to SummerSlam, because it's almost like, in a way, what this Night of Champions show with the King of the Ring and stuff like that, they're setting up their main events for SummerSlam on here. So it kind of feels like, in a sense, not dissimilar to what the Royal Rumble has always been about, sort of setting up matches for Mania.
I like that. That's good.
Sense.
There should be more. I don't have wrestling,
I don't have a problem with it. It just is. It's just that when the Saudis are going to be getting the Rumble next year and Night of Champions, and I think Crown another one as well later.
Yeah, I guess it's all linked to Saudi then, isn't it?
Yeah, it's all getting that stuff. And why are they there? They're there for the money and whatnot. But yeah, sports washing works. The pressing, it really fucking does. I was thinking about this as well. It's this idea that they just take things you love and go, yeah, we're going to have it. Don't worry, we're going to throw a load of money at it so you can end up enjoying it for a bit. But
what this was?
what it is.
you don't have to reach hard, do you? For the analogy, it's like any boxing match they put in Saudi, like where it's like the old man boxers coming out for one more fight, and it's just, or even the current day boxers coming out for fights, and not performing to the level that they're supposed to, because it's a freak show fight that they're putting on for Saudi money, and the heart's done in it. We've seen that in recent vintage. Like that's what this was, and maybe that's what Punk was doing. He wasn't sitting at home getting angry, thinking about how he could go to AEW. He was sitting at home thinking, all these fucking boxers and MMA fighters are making all this money in Saudi Arabia. That could be me. Maybe that's exactly what he was wanting to do. The Tyson Fury stuff. Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah, they're making a lot more than him as well. A lot more than him. They're walking away with like 50 odd million.
50 a go, yeah.
For those fucking fights, that's not what Phil's on. I'll tell you that. He will feel that he should be on that as well. But yeah, it was all of the, like, I mean, I hated all the direct sign posting at the end. Like, it felt like it was the Rollins running, felt like it was like, oh, okay, we're kind of having just a tease of what's going to happen at the end of the SummerSlam match with another.
I think we're pairing off. I think based on Raw, I think Punk's going to get pulled to Gunther instead, which is a positive. I'll take it. But this Rollins thread there continues to dangle. But we'll get into that. Obviously, Cody winning the King of the Ring is the other, end of it, which presumably means Cody versus Cena at SummerSlam.
It is, yeah.
Is John loses the belt back to Cody at SummerSlam? Is it that black and white? What do you think?
Not with that Randy Orton facial expression at the end. That was as telegraphed.
He did a facial expression, did he? Oh, that's good.
Well, he underneath the amount of muscles that are on there as well, it was very much felt like, it was, he's being nice to Randy Orton. Randy Orton didn't attack him there. He's gonna at some point come out to save him when Travis Scott runs up. Remember that fucker? He'll make an appearance at SummerSlam. It'll be, if you thought this was bad in terms of levels of interference, we're going to get this. We're probably going to get a Randy Orton running. I expect Randy Orton to turn on Cody Rhodes and maybe deliver an RKO to Cena for all time.
I would have in the past.
And Seth Rollins will come out and stuff like that.
In the past, I would have, because like I said to Matty, like I think it's such a waste. Like I'm not into Orton. Don't get me wrong. I've been more into Orton than I have in the past, but I'm not into Orton. I promise, I'm not. But if you're going to do something interesting with Orton, it was that heel turn that they were teasing, months ago, and they didn't do it because presumably they had the best idea down the line. It wouldn't shock me with Triple H's current booking if this was the better idea. Oh, we'll do a one-off match in Saudi. We'll shake hands and we'll go our separate ways. Like, and Orton will never turn heel, and Cody won't turn heel for a few years, and that's about as interesting as it gets, because this was white bread, the match, wasn't it? It was imagine Cody Rhodes versus Randy Orton doing again an exhibition match in Saudi, and again the crowd were into it. Obviously they had the moment on SmackDown with the feed cut out, and the crowd were reacting massively to them there. Again, it was more about singing the songs, on the night like they did on SmackDown. They did it again here tonight, and did a bit of a sing-along while a match kind of vaguely broke out in front of you, and Randy Orton sold his back throughout, which wasn't the most interesting layout to a babyface versus babyface match. And the right decision, Cody winning, and if it's Cody Cena straight up at SummerSlam, I more think that will be the case, and we'll straight up do that, and we'll just get it back to Cody. I just don't think Triple H's booking is any more interesting than that. A part of me thought when Cody was cutting that promo on SmackDown, we might be going to a 3-way. That might be interesting, Cody involved with Punk, maybe. That could be something we could do down the line. But I think that's where we're going. But it was a means to an end, really, and not much else. But what else could you expect?
Exactly. I mean, the first line I've written on my notes here is a professional wrestling match between two professional wrestlers who were having a test of who is the more professional wrestler out of the two. Like, that's what it was. What do you think
Matty'd say about that one? Like, would he have a breakdown? Would he tell you what was good about it? Because he hates Cody, but he loves Randy. But he likes boring WWE matches, so I think he'd be split.
I was like, I mean...
Sorry, Matt. Love you.
It's difficult for it, because I think
play chat Matty, please, JP.
Exactly. What would Matty say? Was there any working snug moments? Not really. I don't really think there was too much of that there as well. There was a long figure 4 segment in there as well. My God, they were gonna drag things out a fair bit on here, and they could always get away with it. They delivered the most basic of crowd pleasing matches for a an audience.
But to be fair, here's the Matty. To be fair, it's the opener. They can't all be 5 stars. There you go. That's what he'd say. Maybe
this was never going to be 5 stars. 5 stars in their fucking heads.
Not even on the Meltzer scale these days, is it? No. Oh, not a chance.
There isn't any. Honestly, if this match was on an AEW pay-per-view, we'd be talking about this one being the worst match on an AEW pay-per-view in recent AEW. We really would do. And I'm not saying it is the worst, but it was just a 3 stars professional wrestling match. Like, they delivered moves in a competent professional way, and they had the right outcome in the end. And it delivered some spots that you thought, which you knew were going to happen, like Cody going for that springboard kick and then being hit with an RKO. You're expecting that because that's the kind of stuff you're going to end up having delivered, but nothing.
Legacy callback stuff.
Yeah, legacy callback stuff. It's the fact they mentioned Ted DiBiase's name on commentary. I found interesting because I was like, you didn't tell people to go and Google him. Why is he not around at this point? It's like, well, he really can't play a point in this feud because he's facing a lot of years in prison.
Coming to a legal case near you, maybe they'll find themselves defending him like they're defending Vince at the minute in court. But we'll get to that. I was going to say a bit of balance here. I'll say something positive now. Let's go to the next interesting thing on the show. We'll bounce around. Solo Sikoa and Jacob Fatu. If only the Matty match. It took place again on Night of Champions of all places. I don't want to see Solo Sikoa in these big spots, but when they put all this work into him, they clearly saw him at a level enough to do that, and then they've always shied away from actually putting him in the ring in matches and actually paying off his feuds and paying off like this Jacob stuff. Like, I thought it was going to be a WrestleMania match, and then when it wasn't, it was like, well, it's probably going to be a SummerSlam match. It's almost like they got cold. It was like, we don't trust Solo for that. Let's do it at Night of Champions. But to Matty's point, if he was here, he'd be saying he was right. First match in a story, most likely, because good Lord, did this give the story, and good Lord, hopefully, I say hopefully, I don't want to see the match, but this can't be it. Solo Sikoa beating Jacob Fatu. I don't feel like under any circumstances you should be making that booking decision and win your Booker of the Year crown, but especially in these circumstances where like this bloodline stuff is just death at this point. Like, it's not like we haven't turned on Jeff Cobb. I've always thought Jeff Cobb was middling and just fine. Never loved him, never hated him. He existed. He was a professional wrestler. He existed on New Japan shows. I never thought, you filled the role. You needed like a semi-main event, or every now and then you needed a Korakuen main event. He was fine. He was absolutely fine. He was professional. He can give you something in the 3 to 4 or a limit star range. So maybe again, that's why WWE saw something in him. But like him and fucking Tangaloa, like we are in NWO B team level stuff. This is full on like Scott Norton and fucking what was Hulk Hogan's
Horace
shitty nephew called Horace Hogan, Horace Belair, have him out there. Like that's the level we're at. I'm like, I don't know about you, but like Hikuleo coming out. He looked thicker. I'll give him that. He's clearly spent the year he's been under WWE contract. He's clearly spent in the gym, and God love him. Good luck to him. You hear good things about it. What he learned when he was like out here and stuff like that. I'm not sure we necessarily saw it in the performances, but I know people who've got good things to say about him. I don't know. It feels like a big step down on what they've had previously. I wasn't even a huge fan of what they had there previously, and obviously, it felt like Michael Cole maybe called him Tama Tonga by mistake, and then tried to play it like he was saying Tama Tonga and Tangaloa's little brother. Like he kind of added that at the end. Didn't outright say Talatonga, which is apparently his name on the show. But guess he made an impact, and I guess we're going forward with this Bloodline B team story. And Jacob Fatu had to lose to Solo Sikoa to make it. So
the only acceptable outcome of this result happening is Jacob Fatu being moved up the card, because I looked at Solo Sikoa and I went, he's a mid-card heel with a mid-card belt. Like, in many ways, whoever the US champion is, I couldn't give a shit about the vast majority of the time. It just is what it is. Here, though, it was like, it's just the whole faction is just going through them. You've got Solo Sikoa. He's shit. JC Mateo, who just looks like a bloke. And the problem is he's not even. It's just the way they dress him up. It isn't flattering for him as well.
Extra medium.
Yeah.
Anyways,
it's and do you know? I have to say, if I saw Jeff Cobb on indie shows over, and fuck me, I saw him on a lot of indie shows over in the UK. He was fine because it was indie shows.
Do you remember any of them? Because I don't. He was there, but do you remember any specifics? I don't, because that's
only against redacted wrestlers in Progress and stuff like that.
I know the one you mean. Okay,
he delivered
enough,
I'll
take that back.
He delivered those bits, and they would be generally fine. That match against Tom Lawler as well, who hopefully we'll talk about later on. But like those
great
were
photo too with us,
Oh yeah, which we didn't ask for him to join in that photo, by the way. That was Stephen Fludder's doing. Of like, I'll come in here, Jeff, and it was like, didn't really need Jeff at the front doing all that stuff, but there you go. It just, it was just like just a load of bollocks. Yeah, the bloke line, like that's what they are, just a series of blokes.
Like the title.
The fact there's no Tamatonga and we got Tangaloa in there, it's like, oh my god, he's fucking dreadful. I was impressed he didn't botch the move that he delivered to Jacob Fatu, and he probably did ever so slightly, but I was like, that's as good as you're ever going to get out of him. And I didn't think that Taller Tonga looked remotely kind of like, for some reason, he's a really tall guy. We've seen him in the flesh, and I don't like, he came across as like thick, but he didn't come across as like this giant, which he actually is. For some reason, the camera, like, because he
did look short, didn't he? Michael Cole was going, he's 7 foot. I was like, look it. Look it.
And it's partly because he was doing the thing that lots of the guys in this match do, which is slightly crouch down and do a kind of weird dance and shake their heads and stuff. I know Jacob Fatu can't stop doing it. He's like Ian Curtis and fucking Joy Division, just sort of like moving around. And I wish he was coming out to Transmission or something like that. That'd be fucking awesome. But it was like, I thought even the way he put him through the table, I say put him through, so put him on the table, none of that stuff made him look like this absolute killer who's just might just be the monster on the outside. So I just sort of came away just going, these lads are going to feud for ages, and we're going to get they're going to drag it out till War Games, aren't they? They are going to drag it out till Survivor Series and War Games, because and my God, how bad is one of the sides on that? Like, how bad that Solo Sikoa side is. It's like there's no saving grace, is there? There's no great. If you're great worker in Tamatonga, there are problems.
Keep Roman Reigns away from it. He deserves better. That's me saying it. Steph said, "Hey, we might have met during a Jeff Cobb match." Yeah, maybe that's why I don't remember.
Yeah,
Jeff Cobb's matches in your call.
It's why you were chatting. For God's sake,
we usually were there, to be fair. Yeah, all of us, even when before Steph was there. But yeah, there you go. That's all there is to say on that. We'll blow through it. Is there any other highlights from the show? I'd like to move on. Sorry, Matty.
Simple. Jay Cargill's terrible. She botched the pinfall on that, so the crowd.
It's never happening, is it?
It's never happening.
The blame's on here now. Like, we gave it every chance. We gave it every. Like, we said things everyone said. No, it wasn't necessarily WWE know what to do with it. We might have came close, but it was like, good system to be in. She'll probably at least learn how to work their way, and that might be a good sealer for her. I think the problem's Jade Cargill. I think we can all say that now. She's been wrestling a very, very long time, and she should have been better at the point she was in AEW, and I think some of the blame belonged on the promotion, but maybe not as much of the blame belonged on the promotion. Now that you look at it, it's like, I think she just maybe isn't that good and is never going to be that good, and that's it. But I mean, there's still clearly, it seemed like they'd lost a bit of confidence in her. Clearly, their confidence hasn't been shocked. I guess Queen of the Ring doesn't mean that much, but it's a statement of intent, at least. That they're still planning on trying to do something with it as a singles, and who knows, it might work. Maybe there's enough there in the WWE system that as we always said, you can get away with the weaknesses. But God, those weaknesses are not going away.
Not as a face. I don't think that's the other thing as well, which she kind of is, isn't she? She's de facto face, even though she's not really likable. That's the other thing in there. There's not like there's some like crowd connection that means you can forget about some of the work and stuff like that. Like, she looks the part. So did fucking Tom McGee. He very much looked the part. That didn't end up there as well. And at least in AEW, they had at least the sense to just keep her as a heel, which was the best use of her, because that natural bitchy stuff just seems to come to her. Whereas, like, in WWE, she has to sanitize like a lot of that stuff down if she's ever going to do it at all, and it's just never going to work. And she's not good in ring, and she's never getting any better. And she's in a title match because I just think they're just insistent we are going to go through with this, and I think the crowds are going to shit on her, like at SummerSlam.
I admire the commitments. They should try with someone. Just don't know if she's holding up her end.
But then you go, they should try with Stephanie Vaquer. They should try with Julia. They should try with Jordan Grace. They should try with Roxanne Perez. Like, there are others they could go to.
And they should be trying harder to make it better. Like, some of the blame falls in the company. Surely the best trainers in the world and the biggest company in the world could do more with it than we're seeing. It's wild.
Exactly. Like, oh God, like I don't know. Maybe there's an alternate universe where she got shipped off to go to a Stardom dojo for 6 months, and she just turned out to be fucking brilliant as a result of that. But that's never happening.
Maybe they'll come with the heel run to yours in Suits Point. Maybe they're holding the water for that. Who knows? Outside of that, any other highlights? Rhea Ripley and Raquel Rodriguez bowling jokely. I don't think we need to.
S&M Street Fight.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Did you know that Riyadh had boulevards? Apparently it does. I guess it does. Big city,
Yeah, streets.
Ooh.
I saw that from the overhead drone shop in there as well.
Yeah. What would happen if Rhea Ripley and Raquel Rodriguez had a fight on this street? I'd worry about that.
Given the way the Saudi government would react to it, not good. Not good as well. And it didn't help that at one point there were 3 people in there dressed effectively exactly the same. And the only there wasn't even just like, can they just wear different colours? No, just make it.
Nia Jax tried that on SmackDown. It wasn't a good look. It was not.
No, I mean, what is the positive of Jade Cargill? She wore all white. So at least, like, you could.
She always looks like $1 million. Like, to be fair, like that's the one thing she's got going for her very much so. Like,
but this
10 out of 10 in the look department.
This match just existed to get Rhea Ripley. It's that thing about there's certain people that are always going to get into a Saudi show, like Sami Zayn, just to throw this in.
Yeah,
and you give them a lower level opponent. You put them in there for a few minutes. They get to do their shit, and then they win, and then they
old school hand raise,
Yeah.
Karrion Kross got his little, got his moment. Took a couple of bumps too. Proved the haters wrong. Didn't have a good match, so the haters are still one for the haters, unfortunately. But yeah, Sami Zayn, like you say, Sami Zayn gets a match on these shows, and it is what it is, as we said.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, the fact that Karrion Kross was on here, God knows his contract. I mean, I don't know. Like, there's a lot of fan movements at times. I don't know. I never understood the Wrong Killings one. This was another one. I was like, I don't get this in the slightest. The bloke is not good. The only thing he's done is shown that the one area he has improved upon in WWE is the promo stuff. And that's at the very tail end when he's possibly his contract's up. It's a bit like, like footballers playing for a contract at the end of the year. Suddenly they turn up in the last 6 months looking for a deal on it while shitting the bed or being injured permanently for the first 3 years.
And talking to the sheets. Not saying that's happening, but something.
That's it.
But
there you go. Fuck me. Not a great show.
Well, to get into the Raw fallout, because left it horrible after that show. Yeah. I mean, the least these fucking horrible blood money shows could do is be good, and I don't think we really got that there. And I look forward to getting Matty's take on it. The fallout on Raw. Like I said earlier, I'm interested in Punk and Gunther. Not interested in how they got there. Gareth will fucking hate it, or laugh at it and say he's right. As Punk came out looking for Rollins on Raw. Gunther got in the way. I like the way Gunther played it because Gunther just happened to be in the ring, so he didn't just powder. He didn't cowardly away. Just stood in the corner like, I guess I'm just watching you two fight now. And then he tried to walk past Punk, grabbed Punk by the arm, and Punk shoved him, and Gunther fell on his ass like he was like 50 pounds lighter than Punk, which he might be. Like he was the small guy. It was so weird. Like in that I just presumed it was going to be a top and tail story across the night where it's later in the night Punk gets found bloody backstage, or literally better on screen we see Gunther literally murder CM Punk, like all but murder CM Punk on television. And there's a Pittsburgh they were in for Raw. Quick those flights these days, aren't they? But no, I assume that payoff's coming at some point though, maybe after the Goldberg match. There's me saying everything I said about CM Punk in the first half. I'm going, yeah, but Punk and Gunther could still be good. It's still good. It's still good. It's still Punk. It's still Gunther. Gunther's WWE proof, maybe Punk can be. Probably not, but maybe Gunther can give him some of that magic that he tends to have, even if, like I say, the booking doesn't always help him. And the layout of this angle, I do question a little bit, depending on what the follow-up is.
Oh, he never had that. He was never able to sprinkle some of that Stardust onto Jey Uso during those matches.
Hey, Jey Uso and Cody Rhodes had the match of the year last week. I'm telling you, JP, match of the month, something like that.
Is it exactly the match I've got inside my head? Probably.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
I've just
a little bit better. To be fair, it was okay.
But pairing them two up, at least it's a more interesting direction. It's a match we haven't seen, so like I'm more inclined to give it.
Gunther might be a better promo than Punk now as well, so maybe you can teach him.
Oh God! Yeah, I saw the Goldberg stuff. Just brilliant.
Goldberg was terrible for his part. Goldberg sucked. Goldberg, like we were saying on the live last week, needed fucking 20 goes to get his one over, but Gunther was brilliant. Again, keeping it brief because I'd like to talk with the wrestler or wrestling, full stop. Judgment Day won the tag belts, and apparently the New Day's heel run ended with the Judgment Day beating them and getting a pop. Not sure where they're going there, but Judgment Day, who's in the stable, who's not in the stable, strife continues. And I did get a kick, again, depending on where it goes. Speaking of Gunther, out of El Grande Americano being on Raw, despite Gable being injured and all of his stablemates looking at Grande Americano being shocked. I mean, that again, a bit low hanging fruit comedy, but it did make me laugh. But it looks to be based on his on the way his body shape is that might be a younger Axel Dieter Jr. Lovely Kaiser who's gone in the gimmick. So I can't see it going anywhere good, but the angle itself gave me a chuckle, and that's about as much as you can hope.
Yeah, saw that. Perfectly fine for what it was as a piece of typical Monday Night Raw bollocks that you would expect.
Should we do the news?
Yeah, please, God, let's do the news. And the first bit of news on here as well is an update on the Janelle Grant Vince McMahon lawsuit in here. WWE and Vince McMahon have filed to prevent Janelle Grant from receiving new evidence. This is a story that we've spoken about before, where previously she has wanted to have access to the emails and texts from Vince McMahon. It's a discovery request in there as well. A lot of meetings minutes, internal communications, things like that in there as well. And the McMahon legal team were involved. They basically
and WWE in lockstep again.
Yep, always a really important thing. That's where WWE are. They are on the side of Vince McMahon throughout all of this stuff on here as well. They have themselves in there said she's not entitled to motion-related discovery. She's entirely failed to allege sufficient facts, calling into questions the validity of the arbitration provision in there as well. Whereas the Janelle Grant representatives have said if they've got nothing to hide, they should embrace this opportunity for transparency. Absolutely in there as well. This is the typical delay. Anything that the Janelle Grant side asked for through Ann Callis, they come back and they just stonewall it, and they will do this for every single request that they have throughout that. In terms of some other news stories in there, well, we had the big in-ring debut at the NXT live event for Blake Monroe. You know, she was won the title at Wembley. You might well remember. Well, here she was in a high school gym in Fort Pierce, Florida. Here as well, and it looked like
he's in fucking. Well, where did Brandon Thurston get the stats from? Wembley Civic Centre or Harrow? What is it? The council?
Oh, it's Brent Council.
Brent Council Civic Hall. This looks like Jesus Christ. Like that girl does not help herself. Like some of the things she was saying last week about how she was on her ass and she got to love a wrestler back. Like, AEW Women's Champion. What are you on about? Like, and then now she posted these pictures herself, didn't she, on Twitter? I'll get them up in a sec, but like. Yeah, saying that this was a dream come true. What a great moment that it's finally happened. It was like a great moment, really. Like I mean, I've seen bigger fan, like literally more people at recent Progress shows, recent indie shows over here. Is that? I don't think that's what you left AEW for, and I get it. I understand it. You want to. Is the ring rust? It's not been that long since he's wrestled again. No. Feels a bit like the Punk one, to be honest. It feels a bit vindictive. It feels a bit like, her entire NXT run so far has been a little bit vindictive and a little bit like, you mark, this is what you're getting, and this is how you're going to make your WWE debut. And she's trying to spin it as a positive, but I don't know if you can.
to say it's underwhelming is a fucking state. From the moment she's appeared, from any of the promos she's cut, she just feels like another part of the NXT roster. Whereas to remember the fact when she came into AEW, she very quickly was linked up with the hottest act on the women's side of the company and was like into as much of a main event program. I mean, God's sakes, the headlines their first show in Australia, which for all of the problems that had, that was in front of like sort of 13,000 people in Brisbane, not here. Like if there
All
was
in, mate.
200, all in, I know.
One of the biggest matches for cream for 50,000 people.
Yeah,
it's embarrassing. And again, I know what the purpose is, but I still think like there's somebody in WWE fucking with her, being like, oh, this will look funny if we debut it here, and she'll tweet about it. Like, optics aren't good.
Dreadful stuff on there. But we have some new matches announced. We mentioned it earlier on the Evolution show that's going on July 13th, so the day after All In. Complete coincidence. They booked this several years ago here as well. So we have Rhea Ripley versus Io Sky for the Women's World Championship. I don't think she's defended the title in like a few months in there as well. There's a Battle Royal that's been added to the card where the winner of that is going to be earning a women's title shot at the Clash in Paris PLE. That's August 31st. So a week after Forbidden Door. Which is obviously in the UK. Again, coincidence, just complete coincidence that over here as well. And Roxanne Perez and Raquel Rodriguez. Roxanne Perez taking up the place of Liv Morgan there, defending their titles in a 4-way tag match with each WWE brand being represented. So a team from Raw, SmackDown, and one from NXT there. And the only other match that's announced for that card is JC Jane defending her NXT Women's Championship against Jordan Grace.
I mean, I assume we'll cover it, but it's not a real show, is it? It exists for one reason and one reason only, like the other show that's happened that weekend. It's
And the fact it's this show, it's the follow-up to a show they should have been doing every year. The all-women show is the one.
The only way they could get another one.
It's the one that's seen as expendable in all of this and is fodder for AEW, like fodder to lose to AEW that weekend. But there you go. We do have a third match announced for Saturday night's main event as well.
Speaking of that Saturday,
exactly. Yeah, we have in here. We've got Randy Orton versus Drew McIntyre. As Drew McIntyre making his return on Raw. In the opening segment, which was between Cody Rhodes and Randy Orton.
I meant to mention that.
Yeah. The other matches we've got on here, and he's been off since the end of May because obviously he's had a few injuries, and so they've just given him a little bit of time off. So we've got Seth Rollins versus LA Knight. Fuck me, I can't think of a worse match to watch. And Gunther versus Bill Goldberg, which I'm just praying is 5 minutes long.
It's kind of speaking of the again. I still can't believe that's not a match happening in Saudi. But speaking of the rubberneck and freak show match, I mean, yeah, like I will be watching that.
Yeah,
and it's obviously going to be a busy night with All In, but I will make time for that.
It'll be be 6 minutes long and on YouTube. It'll be like a piece of piss to get round to watch.
Oh no, it's late, isn't it? All In's early. That's late.
Yeah, All In's early. So by the time that ends, in theory, it'll be straight into Saturday night's main event. So yeah. And I'll watch that. I might liberally miss everything else, judging by the other two matches announced on that, knowing how WWE is going at the moment there as well. And the final WWE story on here, we have some episode details. I know it's appeared on my Netflix splash page.
Oh, was it?
WWE Unreal in there as well, which is a very apt title because it will be full of bollocks on this as well. It is 5 episodes for it. It's released on July 29th. It is apparently similar to the Hard Knocks series, which is just your standard sports documentaries that are following certain teams. Episode 1 is the Raw premiere at Netflix, so the Intuit Dome on here as well. Episode 2 is focusing on the men's Raw Rumble match and the feud between Cody and Kevin Owens, who, they sold that well on their pay-per-view, which was actually, in fairness, very interesting in here. The third episode is the one featuring the women. They get just 1 episode out of the 5 on here, including Chelsea Green winning the US title, Charlotte Flair returning, and the Women's Royal Rumble, and a few other bits on there as well. Episode 4 is the Cena heel turn. Try saying that when you're pissed. Elimination Chamber in there as well, and how they kept it secret, and New Day's heel turn as well, sort of thrown into the mix. And apparently that's when Nick Khan will be speaking on that one as well as an appearance by Dwayne. And then episode 5 is the WrestleMania 41 on here. So yeah, it is. There's not going to be any mention about The Rock's absence at WrestleMania. I think these were all found out by John Pollock and Brandon Thurston at Post Wrestling, so I need to give them the credit for that. Gonna be shit.
Sorry, well, I thought it was still Mike there, JP. I grabbed my YouTube remote and pressed the actual Netflix button for one of the first times in my life, and put WWE into the voice search. What I've gotten so far in Vietnam is Muscles Mayhem. I don't know what that is. We have the Mr. McMahon documentary. We have a World War II documentary with a picture of Adolf Hitler. No further comment from me. And WWE Unreal. It is over there in Vietnam. I can confirm.
I mean, I don't want to make this sound like I'm plugging anything Adolf Hitler related, but if it's the Hitler Rise of Evil, that is genuinely interesting.
No, World War II in colour.
Bollocks to that. It's just
Enemy Gates. Colour. Something about World War II.
Enemy
it's all the W's.
Enemy of the Gates is quite a boring film starring Jude Law and Ed Harris as rival snipers.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you don't need to see it. Trust me, I have sat through it, and it's.
But WWE Unreal, it is there. Can confirm.
Yep, it is there. So I made sure to put the reminder on it. Oh, we'll cover it because we like covering a documentary on this, but we'll be covering with it.
Playing the trailer.
Probably the
copywritten.
Oh yeah, with the expression tension of
home quick
all over it. There it is. You're back on that. You're back on that Google splash page.
When I first I voice searched WWE first and I tried to load up the WWE network. Thank you, Google TV. But all right, I don't think that's even here in Vietnam at this point.
Yeah, exactly. I've got that same Google splash page on mine.
Not making them anymore, Fantastic device, but they don't produce them. Wild.
Bollocks.
Best thing they ever made.
Why they're not doing that. But yeah, we'll be covering it. So if you lot don't want to watch it, I wouldn't blame you. It'll be shit.
There we go.
It will be.
It'll be the new documentary corner. There was an I'm Finally story. Did I delete it? Oh, that was meant to be that. Sorry, I moved the other I'm Finally story to the very end of the podcast. That's your I'm Finally do the B story. There you go.
Yeah, but I saw that today. Fucking hell. But it leads us over to a real wrestling promotion with the keyword on wrestling. AEW, mate.
What we're going to say? I wanted to throw it over to you, mate. Obviously, we didn't have you on weekend show. Matty watched the promos. Oh well, Dynamite wasn't really up to much cop last week. I don't think it was a filler show that moved us along nicely. We have the Bucks match is official. We got kind of little bits like that. We got a bit of heat on Hangman from the Moxlaw. It was a bit of not really bells and whistles. It was more boots and trunks. Was Dynamite last weekend. Collision kind of followed the same format again. It being on Thursday, caught a few people out. We were talking about it on weekend show. I think Platt was in the chat going, "What? When was Collision?" And it was Thursday night last week. But yeah, did you have any thoughts on that? The broader build to All In. How are they doing in building? I guess the big 3 matches. It's a big 4, isn't it? If you count obviously Ospreay and Swerve against the Bucks, Mox and Hangman, Mercedes and Tony Storm, and I guess you could throw in there a card or Omega as well, just the small matter of that. It's a nice top half of the card, that isn't it? When you've got it, what a nice change of pace from what we've been talking about.
Oh my god! Like I think all of the stuff, like looking at this card, I'm just bringing it up there on screen to have a look at, like in terms of the stuff that's on there at the minute. Just a world away from this Saudi show on here. I mean, what you hit the nail on the head on the weekend show with Matty when you just said, we've said this before in the build to a pay-per-view, like AEW isn't great when it gets past week 4 for being able to kind of stick the landing of going to a pay-per-view. So they've been a bit more careful. That's why the Mexico show
was good. It was nice to have that distraction for a week. It was like, all right, we'll reset next week. They kept a couple of things running. There was a couple of like story beats that happened, but mostly it was non-canon and it was needed because then you got back to this week and it was more of like a, just a solid, let's do a couple more foundation blocks. Oh, we haven't made that match official. Let's do that. And then we've still got 2 more weeks of TV to build.
Yeah, exactly. And I think there's what it did is it was like, say, that functional show that is getting us from A to B, announcing the Casino Gauntlet matches. And I would say the other thing that we will end up hearing at some point, it'll be another, like, I expect it to be a 4-way tag team match because of the way that they threw in the patriarchy in terms of them being on Collision. You know, it made me think, okay, they'll do something around the tag teams as well. So you know that everyone's getting on the card for this. They weren't great shows, I have to say. They kind of like, they ticked the boxes of like where to go to. I enjoyed the Mark Briscoe MJF interactions. I thought that was fine. I agree with you. The crowd wasn't great. It just really wasn't. Like, it really wasn't, and particularly like coming off Grand Slam Mexico as well. I thought they kind of like lacked something there as well. It was. I thought even no. I was going to say like it just the thing they did with the EVPs with the Bucks, that felt like kind of almost like the bigger thing. It wasn't a week where it was lots about sort of like Hangman and Moxley. That wasn't like the dominant like thread of the show. It was almost like some of the other stuff and padding it out. I think there's going to be stuff this week because obviously it's Dynamite 300, and then the week afterwards they're in Texas. So it's going to be finalizing, and they'll only finalize so many people getting into the Casino Gauntlet. Like, obviously they like to keep it with plenty of surprises. I'm in agreement. Why the fuck they're doing 2 of these on here, I don't know. I just find that to be just a gigantic.
Sometimes lessons are easy, aren't they? Look at WWE. 2 Rumbles in a night doesn't work. 2 War Games a year doesn't work.
Much.
Like, and especially when you're AEW and you're not, it's not like you're strict anyway. It's not like you do it once a year. You could do 2 a year. If you're AEW, they're probably going to do 4. They should do 2 though. And you could do a men's in May and a women's in November, or a men's in July and a women's in January. You know, I'm sure you could have paced it out a bit better. It's to get everyone on the card though, isn't it? I think it's Tony Khan feeling bad about not using Athena. It's, not wanting to look a lot of that roster in the face the morning after All In. It's one of those types of things, isn't it? And he's done it for both divisions.
It's a shame as well because of just how much we enjoyed, being there live for the men's Casino Gauntlet match at All In last year. It was just absolute fucking like just brilliant stuff in there as well. But like, I mean, it'll be interesting because this is tying in some of the Dynamite 300 stuff. The fact that we got Mark Briscoe #1, you've got the stuff with him and MJF. You'd expect Mystico to make the kind of like big appearance here as well. Like that would be something like they're not doing I can't see them doing, like, they're not doing the hair versus mask match, which I would have preferred to see on this card in some ways, but I think at some stage they're going to get round to it as well. Yeah, it was like a very functional build this week. Like I didn't find, and again for Collision, it was about things like FTR Outrunners, which as a sort of sidetrack feud, like I thought
it's something they had to get to eventually. They had to pay off because they were so tied together on Collision. It feels like it's something they're doing because they don't want to get to Edge and Christian too soon, because Christian wants to do what he wants to do.
Every time that I see them 4 in the ring, it's so weird to go from that really violent taking out Cope to they're fucking around with Stokely Hathaway, who is like I agree with everyone who
he's a net negative. I'm sorry, it's not a popular opinion. Everyone loves him because he's a Twitter personality that follows people back, and he's funny sometimes, but like, he's not a positive. He's funny in individual segments, and there's individual segments sometimes that but mostly, does he add or subtract to the act? Ask yourself honestly. Like, remember how much heat they had at the start, and how you can't sustain that over the long term. But like, as a FTR looked like it had legs as a serious act, and it's just that little. It's 1 step forward, 2 steps back, isn't it? They're the 2 steps back. It's the lighthearted stuff. It's him having to get his one-liners in the backstage promos. There's no money in and Stokely. Money isn't money, isn't that what Jim Ross said? There you go, you're right. The older you get, you start to agree with the old people. I think I'm one of them now. Mate. I wouldn't have said that 10 years ago.
That's a terrifying.
I don't mean it either. Money can make money, obviously, in the right circumstances, but not here.
Then make him a commentator. Like, maybe some of that stuff could like transport across there, but not as a manager. It just doesn't work. He just makes them.
It's never worked on mainstream wrestling, and I think it's not like he's new to the company. He's been with a lot of acts. Jade at the start, wasn't it? That's how long ago we're going. Mercedes for a while.
But it was that. I was praying Josh Alexander would beat Adam Cole but sadly that wasn't to be the case there as well.
Mm.
And the Kyle versus Kyle match, it was just like, all right, you lot get to do loads of Kyle.
It's great Tuesday night craps on it.
Yeah, exactly. The Frog and Bucket, fine. I mean, Kyle Fletcher was in his element. He did plenty of those shows, but he left.
Did you see Chris Brooks is on in Bangkok? Though it's 4 days before I fly back. I'm not changing my flight. I don't think he'd like to see me. Pixel things I've heard. So anyway, I didn't want to see him. Don't want to see his matches.
No.
I pulled for it. It wasn't me. It was fucking. Who was it? It was Grapple Sarah and it was Joe. You know, I was. I think I was mostly nice about Chris Brooks. I like to see people doing well. He's doing well. Good for him. He chose a great path. I respect him 10 times more than I respect half of the NXT UK dweebs, you know.
To say he's stuck with Japan is a fucking understatement as well. I mean, he's just
Self-made,
lost.
man.
He's had his second run with the KOD title, and DDT's just been ended by, I think, Higuchi out there. But yeah, he's doing all right, isn't he?
Yeah.
Out there, he seems to be kind of like enjoying himself.
He's carved the lane for himself, you know. I respect it. It's like Joe Janelle. I respect it. Still not sure I want to watch the matches. But
he'll never forgive us for. You know, I would suggest go to the Patreon. If you join up with the Patreon, you get all the old back issues. Find the one where Joe starts doing the Dean Gaffney comparison. Like, that was
that's
the
why
one.
he hates us.
That's
why.
Yeah, we're not. It's never been forgiven.
JP, are we the baddies? I think we are.
I think we are. We've done our best to actively take down companies at times, and to a certain degree, succeeded. So it's a terrifying thought.
We're the baddies. Oh no,
we are, but we embrace it. We embrace the bad.
Fine with it. I'm over it.
Yeah.
Anyway, there we go.
Yeah. So we've got like I say, we've really. I mean, I'm trying to think of the other stuff that happened on Collision. Queen Aminata won. I was astonished.
More of that.
Oh, shit. She got a pin. Absolutely fine. And she'll be, and all of those
people need people who eat
casino.
pins. It doesn't have to be Queen Aminata and Mark Briscoe. It can be less talented people. How about that? Let's do that.
Bert Vixen got smashed to shit by Megan Bain in like a minute. Fine. I'm all right with that. You know, maybe Bert Vixen will be great over time, but at this point in time, that's where she should be. Not Queen Aminata. So,
and again, should be world champion either, probably, but she should be higher up than she is. That's what I think. Well,
something to definitely go with there as well. Yeah, which all
I'm
leads
excited for. Yeah, excited for Dynamite 300. It should be fun stuff. Obviously we got a Mercedes being a Shirakawa on that card, or Ibushi. I don't know how excited I am to see. We'll see. Ibushi was fine against Trent on Dynamite.
Yeah.
Safe pair of hands, as we talked about. You know, 3-star floor. You're always going to get that out of Trenty. Trenty Locks was that his old name. Speaking of Twitter, people who are over on Twitter. And the men's casino gauntlet, number 2 spot 4-way match. AR Fox. I've done a number 2 spot one before. AR Fox versus Anthony Bones versus MJF versus Brody King. I guess it's just as good, innit? It's like the Rumble. Yeah. Oh yeah. You know, you make a big deal about being number 1, but like number 2, same, innit?
Yeah, exactly. And why? Because it'll get Mark Briscoe and MJF in there at the same time, and all of these lads will make an appearance in there anyway.
Well, I mean, we didn't talk about it, but like, just bring it up here. MLW fucking getting MJF on their telly, and obviously doing the Mystical angle over there. That's interesting. I just assumed that meant he was doing something with Mark Briscoe and something with Mystical, and they were going to find a way to do both. But I would have thought the Mystical match would be on All In, especially, you know, do that in Texas. Makes sense, but maybe not.
Yeah, it made me think. It did make me think. Okay, if you're not doing it all in Texas, and I think it would have been a massive draw, a Mystico mask match in Texas. And you were saying
somebody said in our Discord that Lanza's been saying he's totally right. Like, I say he's totally right. I believe he's totally right because he knows better on these matters than we ever would. But like, you should expect a big walk up to All In. Apparently, is the drum he's been you know, banging, and you would have got probably an even bigger walk up if Mystico was on that show.
Yeah, exactly. Like Mystico announced rather than coming out as a surprise to take on MJF towards the end of that. I think there's a better use of Mystico for it.
Sell some fucking tickets, you know, go for it.
And maybe this is just me. With the success of Grand Slam Mexico, it makes me wonder, would they do a pay-per-view towards the end of the year in Mexico? And then you'd headline it with that. Hair versus mask in Arena Mexico. Just because the threat is there. And if MJF is, as I would predict, winning the casino gauntlet, he has that to fall back on, so you can have this kind of feud to the side. That means he's not losing that aspect of it. That was the only other thing I thought that maybe could be a direction they go towards. It wouldn't surprise me seeing them go back again. I'm sure CMLL wouldn't have a problem with that as well, given how good the business was around it and how pumped they were and how good the relationship with AEW is.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. So maybe that's the case. But I'm sure if they had announced that, you'd have like a big 5 matches, your casino gauntlets, like multi-person tag match, and then you pretty much got most people on the card. And you can drag out those casino gauntlets for a while, as they will do. And a lot of those matches at the top end of the card are going to be long anyway. So, yeah. Although AR Foxy wasn't going to be the... I saw the bit with on Collision as well, where Ricochet has got the Gates of Agony on his side as well. I thought it was a use for them. I'm surprised that
I don't know, though. It feels lazy. I don't think everyone needs stable. Lazy. I'm not sure on that. I enjoyed the Ricochet and AR Fox interactions. It did come a little bit at the expense of the team I've decided are now called Speedboat. Of and Kevin Knight. Speed Knight, I think maybe I called them.
Yeah.
I feel like it wasn't great for them. But I did enjoy that little mini feud. I like a little lower card feud, and AR Fox and Ricochet as what the doctor ordered.
Yeah, that's it. It's decent lower mid cost. Ricochet's not losing stuff, and when he comes out of the casino gauntlet, he'll be massively over in there as well, and he'll have these 2 blokes running interference for him. But that's all.
He's very useful. There's a big use for a wrestler like that in your roster.
Oh god,
he's perfect for the slot right now. It's great to see.
And I'm of the belief still that actually he is strong enough over that later on in the year, when you've gone past these things, you can work him into a top feud. That won't be too difficult, and people will be accepting of it. With a good couple of weeks of TV build, they'll start to see it, and that could be fun. I just, in some ways, I thought the better fit as a tag team would have been the Blake Christian Lee Johnson tag team, because they just felt more like, dare I sound like the bloody Edgeheads back in the day with Edge. It just felt like a more natural kind of link to it. But anyway, I digress. So we'll get a load more stuff announced for Dynamite 300, no doubt, in the next week or so. I'd be astonished if that wasn't the case.
Dynamite 300, that's tomorrow.
Oh no, we'll get announcements on the day.
Oh, you for watch, All In.
Yeah, no, for Dynamite 300, you watch. We'll get another 3 matches announced, and there's probably announced 3 matches by the time we finished recording this, sadly, as well.
Indeed. On to the AEW news.
Yeah, exactly. So one of the other things we're going to be getting on Dynamite 300 is we're going to be potentially getting some cast members from Superman. Not a fucking small thing, this. That's coming out on July 11th. Expected to be one of the big films of the summer. One of the 2 like superhero films. Yeah. So in this picture,
I've not seen Kenny in that cape before.
I know he's in the cape there as well, along with.
Oh no, doesn't help himself.
The guy who plays Superman, which is David Corran Sweat, who I didn't know before this film was being made. Nicholas Hoult, who's playing Lex Luthor. Rachel Brosnahan, who's playing, I can't think of her name, Lois Lane at this point as well. They did some promotional photos in there as well. So the idea being this is a DC film, part of Warner Brothers Discovery. It's the big DC film of the summer for there to have. So, yeah. They're going to be making an appearance out there, and because it's effectively near LA, it makes sense. Like, I'm assuming most of these people have got houses or whatnot, are certainly based out there as well. So it's in Ontario, California for that. So yeah, that is what is going to be happening from a promotional perspective. I know, incredible for this.
MJF seems to pull it off, Kenny. Come on.
Yeah. Well, he's got his own film. We've got the Happy Gilmore 2 coming out at the end of July, which I'm looking forward to. I love Happy Gilmore. I have a lot of time for that.
Even me too. I don't know, though. Is a sequel going to be worth a shit? I don't know. Yeah, it seemed to like 28 years later, was it, that came out this week? I saw them in the cinema.
Yeah. I'm waiting until my 2 eldest sons have been in Barbados for the last week, the pricks. And, fucking send me photos across. It's like... don't absolutely living in the lap of luxury.
Who's paying for that? I hope it's not you, mate.
No, it won't fucking me. I'll tell you that. It was their mum who paid for that. But they were fucking on the boundary at the bloody test match. You could see them all over the coverage.
Oh, I saw you saying that. I just didn't realise that's where that was.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes more sense.
They're on
Jesus
sun
Christ.
loungers with beers. because there was no one there.
Okay,
Free
I get it now.
entry. Just sat there on the fucking boundary on a sun lounger in the
Beast.
party bit with a load of Aussies. They said 2 lads wearing Arsenal shirts just wandering around the place in the background. I was just like, and I'd message them and I'd just go, "You're a couple of pricks." Like, honestly, just rubbing it in as I watch.
Sounds like my dad texting me Liverpool supporting brother.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, just giving them fucking grief for it. Just jealous because it's just like, God, I'd like that. So roll on Turkey on August 1st for that. Collision ratings, we do have those. 8th on cable amongst cable programs in prime time on Thursday. 285,000. 0.08 in the old. And this is because there's NASCAR on Saturday, the new Westminster Dog Show there as well. And it was up against the NBA draft, which was on ESPN, which obviously was going to absolutely slaughter it as well. It also finished behind Fox News, House Hunters International, Jersey Saw the Vacation, and The Source with Caitlin Collins on CNN in there. So down 33%. Collision's been doing all right on Saturdays, but this Thursday one, it, like you say, I
Dynamite was down too. We were off the Arena Mexico week. You know, it is what it is.
You'd expect that. I don't like. I'm not entirely surprised by that kind of being the case, and no doubt, depending what happens at All In, I'd expect that to be where the next kind of big boost is for them, and they'll be okay. Yeah. And this is the really important story. I think WWE has interest in signing 3 of, according to Newsweek, most popular wrestlers in AEW.
Based on this image, is it the Paul brothers and Donald Trump? Is that who we got going for? Wow.
It isn't the Paul brothers on there as well. And whoever that fucking is that podcast? Is he the bloke from bloody Slap Fight? Looks like it. Back in the day. So. Nope. They are interested in Private Party, as we've said before, but also major interest in Danhausen.
Is this Newsweek? Why is this on Newsweek?
I have no idea. I thought that was a serious.
Latest Donald Trump's big beautiful bill head to the House. Yeah, that's news. Isn't it?
Yeah, that was always going through Republican politicians.
Oh, it's a horrible thing. Like, you get into the detail of that. Jesus.
If you are a Trump supporter, when he cuts Medicaid and it affects like members of your family and people close to you and whatnot, you get what
you lose your job.
Yeah, you get what you vote for. Like, you know. Like, if you choose to believe a con man, this is what ends up happening. And when Democrats and this is like, no.
Enough about CM Punk fans.
Yeah, exactly. They're loving him. So looking at them, but also, by all accounts, Chris Jericho's contract is up at the end of the year. That's coming to an end, as well as Renee Paquette.
That was on Patreon.
Renee Paquette is coming up in the fall. And the contracts for Matt Menard and Angelo Parker run out in August as well. Not Moxley, because apparently his contract is there through 2027. So I'd expect Renee Paquette to re-sign there as well. Jericho
genuine news. I'd not heard any of that. Clearly, I'm not going to Newsweek for my wrestling news. Well, I guess they got it from Body Slam.
Clearly.
So
yeah.
Be paying more attention to that. That's interesting. Like, I think I assume Angelo Parker doesn't get renewed. I think Matt Menard will continue to hang around Daniel Garcia like a bad smell. They seem to like having him around, don't they? They put him on commentary and stuff like that.
That's it.
Interesting that Moxley's contract is through 2027, though. That's a
5-year deal, wasn't it?
A lot of reports. Yeah. I think a lot of people thought it was due this year, though. I think that was the talk. Interesting.
I wouldn't have been I wouldn't have been upset if that was the case. I wouldn't even be surprised if there's a point where he falls out with them badly and decides he wants releasing from the contract. And if he did, I don't think I'd say no.
If you believe certain DMs about
yeah.
Not recently, but you know, points. Yeah.
I wouldn't particularly miss him. I don't think that the uptick in how the improvements in AEW programming are down to John Moxley. You view it as an ensemble, not because of this one person kind of.
He's been good, but yeah, I mean, he hasn't been bad the last while. I'm starting to toe the line towards. I think I've gone from like, I don't know if it's like a pendulum. I was like hate, and then I was equal, and now I don't think that's a pendulum. It's late, but yeah, I'm pretty much more on the. I think he's actually been quite good the last while. His promos have been good on Dynamite. I think I've been Garrett's group. As is said there, and as Andy points out in the chat there, Yeah, Jericho's being up at the end of the year is interesting, but like, yeah, let's hope that's the end of him. Like, he's just not needed very clearly. Not needed in this All In build, not needed in AEW in general, and the company's been a better place without him there. So good riddance.
Wasn't the story that he was like posting a lot of stuff of his time in WWE?
Instagram. Yeah, and he never used to do that.
Yep, and it was always just AEW before that. Good. You've got the value out of it. There's no more value to get out of that man for the amount that you're paying him. There's no creative that he's going to be so good at that you're going to get out of him in that time as well. And he doesn't improve the lot of younger wrestlers on the roster. If he's not doing any of those things, it is a waste of $1 million+ a year. And they've been good about cutting ties when people's contracts are up and just going, do you know what? We've got as much out of them, because that's the way wrestling was. It was people did short run things. Why? Because they burn out and they end up being overexposed. His time for this went a good few years ago. If they can get rid of him, WWE obviously would take him up. His contract up at the end of the year. He'll be thinking about the Royal Rumble, and he'll happily like take them up on any offer to do that and go out to Saudi. He'll have to improve his behavior and whatnot out there. But like, this is the thing. It'll work for them and what they want to do. And they love an old lad these days. So, and Danhausen, I mean, when they do the him and Mr. Iguana stuff, I will be switching the TV off.
Danhausen or Mr. Iguana, if you had to pick. I pick Danhausen. I don't hate him. I don't.
I pick Mr. Iguana. He can work to a fundamentally basic level that Danhausen never has shown any inclination to. The actual wrestling bit of wrestling.
Non-wrestler, isn't he? Top 5, you know? Yeah, we found that out.
I mean, if you can make a 6-figure salary by just doing that, like, okay, fair play. I'm not going to watch it. That's where I stand on that. There's me kicking off about that as well. So, yeah, loads of people leaving AEW. Very, very few of them will be actually missed.
Well, our finally story from AEW before we move on to the New Japan World Champion and some other non-AEW and WWE stories. Apparently, Darby Allin, well, he was sat at top of Everest. Apparently, since the first thing he thought to do was send Sting a video. Apparently, when he got there, this is obviously good to interview Sting with Denise Salcedo, apparently, that Allin made sure to drop him a line from Everest. Apparently it was crystal clear, and he thought it looked good out there, so he gave him a ring. Sting was quoted as saying, "What is next for Darby Allin? Who knows, man? Space, the final frontier," said Sting. So basically what we found out is Darby Allin is the Fast and Furious franchise, because we always said there was only one other place to go, which was space, which he literally did in the last movie. So that's where Darby Allin's going next, according to Sting. But isn't it nice that he gave Dad a ring when he got to the top of Everest? Wonder if he rang Tony Khan as well. Do you reckon he did? Save that world title for me, mate. Get it shining up real nice in that briefcase. What do you reckon?
I don't want him to get that title. I'm not sure I ever want him to get that title, but certainly not for a fucking good year or so on that. I don't care if he does.
Who would you ring from Everest? I'd ring Sting.
I mean, I'd be bound to ring Vicky, really. Like, if I didn't ring her, like, it would look bad. Like, just to check on how the children are. Like, you know, if I rung Sting instead, that would be a harder sell. Why did you ring this near 70-year-old man in California? I don't know, shits and giggles. He seemed like he was well up for it. It'll be all right. They'll see each other at All in Texas when Sting will make an appearance, hitting some of the Death Riders with a baseball bat. It'll be.
We should do that.
And he'll get a massive pop in there as well.
Just do it every All In. We all know it's coming. It's predictable. We just don't know which match it's happening in. That's the fun of these Sting run-ins. Just to keep doing it year on year. Pay for Metallica once a year. We're all sorted. Andy says here, ring the Power Slam hotline to get the gas. That's what I would have done in 1997, mate. You're absolutely right. Call into Grapple to record. You know what? Actually, that's the real answer, isn't it?
Yeah.
Both of us. I'll be sending a voice note saying that I've been streaming all the way up. So you don't know my journey. But there we go. What a nice little story to end us off on as we move off AEW and move into some of the rest of the wrestling world. We start with a matter no smaller than the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship, and as we all predicted in a barely televised event, which was apparently it's a weird technicality. It's on like the TV Asahi streaming service.
Yep.
It's like a box office thing that all New Japan big shows, I think, are on, as well as New Japan World. But this particular one was only on there and not on New Japan World, I think is the, if I'm getting it right, that's the way it was set up. So they chose this one, Tanahashi Jam, to be the one that Zack Sabre Jr. would win the IWGP belt back from Hiroki Goto. And if the story sounds mad enough as it is, I watched the match today, JP, and getting prepped for this, threw it on. I looked at again, I had to go to Watch Wrestling because I don't believe it's on New Japan World yet. So correct me if I'm wrong. Found it on Watch Wrestling, Japanese commentary. Looked at it, I was like, why is there an hour and 20 minutes left? And the match has already started. So I played it through, saw it happen. Oh, Zack Sabre Jr. wraps up, Goto. It was a good match. It was a good match. Goto's, because it's a Goto world title match. He's had some really good matches this run. Quietly been the MVP in New Japan this year. Zack Sabre Jr. has just kind of been forgotten about and dropped lower in the card. So, again, nobody really predicted this was coming. But if anything sums this story up, the second Zack Sabre Jr., he's going to the back and celebrating to the back, TNA style, to a Tanahashi video, because the main event is the Tanahashi tag. And it wasn't even you didn't even get your end of show Zack Sabre Jr. with the TMDK flag and all that stuff we got the first time. It was lit. It was a big old nothing. It was so weird. And obviously the story's come out since that Goto's injured, but Meltzer's saying it's got nothing to do with the injury and it was planned for months. So if Meltzer's right, and you never know, but it seems he's right based on the other people out of Japan who've said similar. This was planned. What a shit fucking plan. I've been quoted before, JP, with a similar quote, but if these are your plans, get better plans. I'm gonna call back for you. What the fuck was this? What are they doing?
I don't know. I don't have a clue for it. I mean, I don't know whether or not this is a demand from TV Asahi, who obviously have a financial investment in New Japan and in New Japan World. It's part of what they provide. So maybe that has some kind of connection with it. I was astonished this was second from the top on here. I know it's called Tanahashi Jam, but it made no sense. And I know that they had a draw, didn't they, for their IWGP title match they had in California at one of the New Japan Strong. So it'd be a match you could go back to without having Zack lose. But why now? Why now before the G1? I don't understand. Unless you are they going to have Goto win the G1? I don't think so. They said he was injured and he was missing a date, but it's one date with the arm injury. That shouldn't make any difference on here as well. Like I say, I thought it was a good match. I thought it was your good Zack tying him up in knots finish as well. I thought that stuff was good, but it just, just fucking over afterwards. And it was about Tanahashi and Noah. And him and Marufuji teaming up to take on Kaito Kiyomiya and Rohei Oiwa. I was like, what the just downgrading your own title on your own show that's being hosted by the president of the company. I don't understand this. It's it doesn't make any sense on here as well.
Bizarre.
If it's being done because they want Zack as champion at Forbidden Door,
do the title change at Forbidden Door. Ewan's totally right. Do it when the world's watching.
Do it.
I don't get it. I know they're a Japanese country, so do it in Japan. It will be the counter. But again, do it on a show people can see. Why wasn't it on New Japan World? No one's gotten to the bottom of that.
If this was a big show that was on network TV in Japan and it was free for everyone,
and people thought that at first. People misread the story. I think Meltzer even said that. I think he said, "Oh, it was on TV Asahi. That's the reason." It wasn't. It was
streaming service.
Wrestle Kingdom is. It was on their streaming service, which all the shows are.
The Wrestle Kingdom thing, I think, is more to do with the Aaron Wolf stuff, which I think I did a disservice.
That seems big in Japan.
About that. He's a massive star, and I'm going from a lot of when Voices of Wrestling were talking about it, and I was like, actually, that's a really fair point. This is a guy who won a gold medal and is a big deal, so I get the idea. This is
they take it more seriously, there, don't they? I get it. Yeah.
A mainstream star who credibly could be a big deal.
But we've got to keep that energy, though. Not about Voices, just in general, but we've got to keep that energy when we all go, Bad Bunny, who? Like, just because he's not big to you doesn't mean he's not big. Let's apply that
That's
everywhere.
Yeah.
We need to learn that lesson too. Absolutely.
We do, and they're thinking about their domestic business, and they're thinking about crowds in there. They're not thinking about the international audience. So I don't understand, and maybe they're just thinking. I mean, I thought this Goto run was going as well as it could do. He didn't have many matches against the
better
young
than
lads.
That's an understatement. Triple better. Oh no, I wouldn't go 10 times better. Let's say 3 times better than I imagined it would be.
Yeah,
way better than I imagined it'd be. Enjoyed every match that we tuned in for.
Yeah, he's not broken down. He's not like the rest of the people in his generation who are gone pretty much. He looks like he has more gas in the tank. And if anything, it should be about this guy who's basically like railing against the dying of the light. Like, he's this one last kind of like, I've only got this. This will probably be my only ever title run. I'm just going to go all out. And he just gets ground down over time with some really hard defenses. So it becomes more of an emotional thing. They didn't even go for the obvious emotional stuff, which is just like completely baffles me. But it's like a lot of this company. I don't there's just times with New Japan where I just don't fucking understand it. I don't know. I don't understand it in the slightest.
There we go. Like, I enjoyed the match. I did. It's kind of buried in it because I mean a lot of people aren't going to see the match now, and they're going to go into it with the knowledge of what happened at the end of it. But yet Zach. No slight on Zach. We love Zach. We know we were gutted when he lost the belt for him. Like, and I would like to see him back in this position. Just now seems strange. Especially when you look at the way he's been booked over the last 6 months or so. And again, the understated way, like they delivered it, and the understated way, the post match was, and all of that. More is going to come out on that story. There's got to be more to it. And I guess it's reshuffling things. I guess we'll, maybe Zach's going to be transitional himself, and he'll, something out of the G1 or something post the G1. We got is a King of Pro Wrestling after that. Whatever we have that some kind of title match there where, like you say, there's a couple of contenders there. Maybe they want to switch it to so that we can get set up for something they've got planned for Wrestle Kingdom. I suppose unpredictable isn't necessarily bad, but it just feels, like they panic booked or they've changed their mind or something has happened. And if it's not the go-to injury, what is it?
Yeah, I don't get it. I don't get. But then that probably just sums up how I feel about New Japan in 2025. There's just times where I go, I don't understand the decision-making process, because it was either, well, don't take the belt off Zach, then just have him have it as a long champion run. This point, get through Forbidden Door and G1 and then move on to it afterwards. But who can fucking tell with them these days as well? But like I say, Goto injured, but he's only missing like the one show on there, and that's the July 4th show, and I think it's New Japan Soul that is going to be the case there as well. For that, I've got some very quick stories. I will rattle through these as quickly.
Leave a bit of time for you to talk the shows at the end.
I even then, for a lot of the shows, I don't have a lot necessary to go into. Certainly with I'll like MLW Summer of the Beast. It was an MLW show. The MJF thing was really the most kind of like shocking aspect of it. I was disappointed by the skyscrapers. I won't lie. I just thought, 2 big blokes, bring them in, call them the skyscrapers. This would be great. It was a back and forth match with the 2 lads from.
It's very 2025, isn't it? That they're the skyscrapers. They're not even that tall. Like,
no,
they're both about what 6'3", 4". Maybe I'm underselling Dijak.
Well, one of them power slammed Dijak. Like fucking Bishop Dyer, aka Baron Corbin, was also being thrown around the place.
AKA Tom Pestock. AKA Matty's best mate.
Yeah, it was like he delivered a Death Valley driver, which then Dijak did a moonsault like halfway across the ring. It's a small ring in MLW. That was the big thing from it. I would say the bigger news out of MLW, they've signed a deal with fucking Panini, mate. He says, as I go off screen here, the sticker books. Yeah, trading card partnership in here as well.
Nice.
But yeah, they are. This is going to be launched later on in the year, all over the place as well. He says he's got a dark screen. He has to very quickly refresh to jump back into.
I think we've lost JP.
See me for this minute. Give us a second, and I'll jump back on.
Anybody got any? Anybody still do the Panini books? It's still a thing people do, is it not? I haven't seen one in a while. Not gonna see them out here. I used to have, what was the old WWF ones where it was like mid 90s? Was that Panini? Who did the WWF ones in the mid 90s, JP? It was
Panini.
yeah, would have been Panini. I feel like it was like there was another company though, wasn't there? There was like there was Pepsi to their Coke who'd do them too. Oh, I wish I could remember. Maybe, yeah.
Might be there as well, but fuck me, yeah. This is probably that Paul Waterhauser effect that's getting us deal, and it's an exclusive trading card partnership.
Sorry,
with Panini.
that's what Court says. It's actually Panini bread. Yeah, we're gonna find that out, aren't we?
I would love that to be the case for this. No, I went onto the Panini website. It's up there in the news section.
That's what it is.
Merlin. There you go.
They were good then. I used to love them. I was like the only person in my street who was collecting them by the time I got to 1996. So I had the run of it. It was brilliant.
That's good. On commentary for the show, I mean, they're Joe Dombrowski, but they had Austin Aries in there. God, being a gobshite as ever. But they also had Tom Lawler, which is quite sad and he was on Wrestling Observer Live when he was recording with Brian Alvarez, and he was talking about it, and it's not good. He said he's awful. He basically needs spinal surgery and may require a hip replacement there as well. I mean, he's 42 years old. He's not wrestled in MLW for a little bit. He's like, he's mainly with Matt Riddle as the Filthy Bros there as well. But he's going to a neurosurgeon, so he says he might end up with him retiring, which will be very, very sad. I would suggest, though, if you are going to take him on board, I think as a commentator, I said this for Stokely Hathaway, I definitely mean it for Tom Lawler. If he cannot wrestle, there is a place for him in wrestling. And it would be doing commentary, because if you hear him on his radio when he does the radio,
it's hilarious. I love him.
Really,
I think that's why most of us like him in it. Really, it's not really he's not a bad wrestler. He's done some decent promos and stuff like that. He's never been the greatest either, though, has he? I think the reason we all pull for him is we just kind of find him. He's just a great podcaster, and he's a great. Seems like a cracking bloke. All of those things, really. So
early New Japan Strong. I thought that was like arguably some of the best runs stuff of his career. So
still a ceiling though, wasn't there? Maybe he didn't reach the full potential of that ceiling, but
he did the G1 that time. That would probably be it. The fact he was in that kind of class of people who able to do a G1, which is kind of cool. But he's definitely a place for him. Just get him on commentary. Like, that's really what he should be doing. He can really offer some value on that as well. Someone else who can offer a bit of value, Mike Santana. He has been added to the TNA world title bout at Slammiversary. It's a triple threat match: Trick Williams against Joe Hendry and Santana, which I'm sure has been added just so Trick Williams doesn't have to get pinned in order to lose the title. That's what that's about. But yeah, this is
You've
on
been building
July.
that obviously on using NXT TV, haven't you? There's been a bit of a talk about whether is Joe Hendry still over. I know the other Ewan would argue otherwise. Yeah. It's still still a thing we're going with. Like Santana being there it could just be an idea to just do a wholesale change though, and maybe WWE and TNA are so high on Santana that he gets pushed to the forefront. He did I think he did an interview recently. I watched a little bit of it and read a little bit of it, because mostly it's fucking. I was made up the other day. It was Takeoff's birthday, and Offset and Quavo got together for it. I was very happy. And I was hoping Santana and Ortiz could have their moment too, but unfortunately, still no love shown towards my man Ortiz from Santana. He's moved on, mate. He's moved on with his career, and he's very clearly the more ambitious of the two. I could absolutely see them doing something here and putting the belt on him. It'd be a great little refresher, wouldn't it? If that's such a word. When is it? July 20th? Oh, it's still a few weeks away.
Yeah, I would. I'd have him beat Joe Hendry. Joe Hendry's going to be on NXT anyway, and he's going to be there in a few months. Santana will follow soon enough, but he'll be in TNA for a little bit longer, and he'd be a more interesting figure to go with. But there's a classic case of guy bets on himself, and it actually ends up succeeding.
But so much time for him. Like some of the other people I mentioned earlier, like, you like to see someone do that. You like to see someone succeed. But I also like to watch him wrestle, unlike some of the other people. So, more power to him. Good to see.
Exactly. More power to him for that one as well. Something I don't want to give more power to, or any power to, GCW have announced a WWE ID showcase event for SummerSlam weekend from the Williams Center.
I love it. Have you seen this young up-and-comer that's on the poster here for WWE ID? Hopefully, maybe he can get himself a proper contract. Tim Thatcher.
Fuck's sakes.
Take me through this, JP. What is going on?
Desperate. isn't it? Along the other sort of train of shite that follows with this stuff as well. They were awful at WrestleMania. I just saying it now, I will not be watching this. I don't need to know what happens. I do not care. It's just like doing Evolve results. Terrible, terrible stuff. And GCW doing it because, hey, they need the money and they want the exposure.
After the first one, we
WWE.
just stopped covering it Mania weekend, didn't we? We all had better things to do with our time.
Absolute waste of fucking time.
We had Timby in there though, just strange. Yeah, maybe he needs the money.
And then, he must. I think he's doing coaching and training. I think that's what he's ended up doing there as well. I did manage to see some of the Revolution Rumble as well today. I saw like the opener, which was Nino Bryant defeating Will Caven for the title, which he's someone who hasn't, sort of like lost. Like he's lost basically all of his matches up to this point. He ended up winning it. He's a young sort of cruiserweight guy, so it was fine. Will Caven hasn't really got it on a bigger level for me, but again, he's one of their guys, and I've wondered about this. I've wondered about the effect of what appears to be a lot of European wrestlers potentially going over to WWE that may well have factored possibly more into RevPro plans, and they kind of maybe haven't, because that may be the case. It was a 3-star opener, really, as much as anything else. I didn't see a lot of other stuff on the card. I saw bits of the tag match, which was the Young Guns, Luke Jacobs and Ethan Allen versus CPF, Danny Black and Joe Lando. It was just like a big hardcore match, but it was bloody long. It was really, really long, and loads of various stuff like thumbtacks and everything else. But I was kind of intermittently seeing bits of it, so it wouldn't be fair of me to kind of like necessarily go through and review it. It was something there because the undercard wasn't necessarily inspiring a lot of people, because they were there for the Rumble, which I did watch. I thought it was the weakest of the Rumbles they've done, if I'm going to be honest.
I know Hammy didn't like it. I read,
they did the Santino Marella thing with Liam Slater, who is always teaming up with Leon Slater, but he wasn't there because I think he was working in the States at the time, I'd assume for TNA. But he was there, and he said if he won, he'd give his title shot to Leon in there as well, and he sort of left because of an injury. I kind of got Ian Hamilton, who does brilliant work reviewing like a lot of European wrestling on backbodydrop.com. Do want to get that plug in there as well. There was a lot of stuff that went to the outside, and at times it was hard to keep up, and they actually had a camera above the setup on the stage, so you could see the other side of York Hall, which looked good, even if it looked incredibly sweaty there as well.
Yeah, it was a hot day, wasn't it?
It was. And it says they've got a lot of people at their disposal to be able to use, and a couple of people who I wasn't so sure about in terms of like British guys. And I suppose because it's RevPro, it's not like WWE, so you have lessened expectations. But it did feel at times like it was pardon me, it felt like quite going through the motions, I have to admit. Not that it was necessarily bad, because there was enough more going on, like sort of like when they were doing stuff in ring, but it wasn't like particularly exciting, because it felt like, well, there was only realistically going to be a couple of winners, and it was neither of the people that everyone predicted. It was either going to be Connor Mills or RKJ. RKJ got eliminated by Oku, who came in specifically just to take him out. In there as well. Eugene came in, where I
don't know if like I don't know, like my first reactions to that was mid 2002, the big guy working the show. I didn't think anything of it, and then when you see people make the case against it, again, to quote Peep Show, you kind of have to say fair enough. To be honest, fair enough. That gimmick was offensive back in the 2000s, and you probably shouldn't still be doing it. What was the deal? Was he over here anyway, and he just took advantage, or like, how did he end up on the show?
I have no idea. But he was there. All he did is he came out because the person who came before was Gideon Gray, who was on commentary, So he's there, eliminated Gideon Gray, and then Jay Joshua eliminated him. And Jay Joshua, they've done like a decent job in terms of building. I like Jay Joshua. Saw him on a local show at Oxford as well. I think there's something about him as just like that barrel-chested powerhouse type who's, knocking around with Connor Mills. And I thought, that was good. And in fact, he got down to really
PCW that all thing.
But
sounds like a PCW booking.
In some ways, I just would have preferred it if they just did then a lot of their own homegrown guys. And they didn't do the thing where there's certain tropes you'd expect to see in Rumbles where the ring really piles up, somebody comes in and they eliminate a load of people. That type of stuff where you get people in there who are very, very early on. There wasn't as much of that stuff. Most of the kind of bigger names came out later on, apart from Jay Joshua came in at like number 9. And I do want to give like a shout out for him. Like I say, it wasn't bad. It's just the other Rumbles I've seen, I think, are better. The Eugene thing just didn't. It was like clearly the thinking is, I assume it was, there's you expect to have some sort of like old legend in inverted commas in there as well. Here's Eugene, he's over here, we can just get him in there. But it doesn't add anything, and it's just not a fit at all. I didn't like it in the slightest. And Shah Samuels winning. Look, for a London-based promotion, or does a lot of its stuff in London, I think that's okay. But it should really be built up as like this is Shah's last run. I'm sure when NXT Europe,
it's not the most exciting headline though, is it?
It's not exciting. But then would Ricky Knight Jr. be exciting? And will we have faith in Connor Mills as a headliner? Even though for Connor Mills, the story is there. And the story is the one that makes sense. And in some ways, you don't know until you try it. They would possibly be the other directions I would go in there as well. But yeah, it was fine. I didn't hate it. Like, I didn't find myself sort of like loathing it or anything else. It was like kind of decent enough. It was like an hour and 10 minutes, so it's quite long. And that's the other thing as well. If you're doing a Rumble, like you want, like, what are the big takeaway moments? And sometimes I struggle to think of like, what are the big moments?
Was it busy?
I mean, that was great. The York Hall, pretty much. Yeah. York Hall looked pretty busy, like both balconies look, and that's really where you're kind of judging it on. And it did look busy for those. So I know young Mark in Discord is always really good at sort of pulling up in terms of the figures for those. 800-900, like around that kind of range. It looked pretty busy for that, but that would have been a hellish day in which to do it as well. So yeah, there you go. Revolution Rumble. If you haven't seen it, I'd have to say I don't think you need to necessarily worry about it. There was the two big Summer Sizzler announcements for when they're going back to Wolverhampton. Mercedes Moné is back, but then also Los Tranquilos to hop on. So Naito and Bushi's first New Japan appearance is in RevPro. That'll be a bit of a bigger deal. Even
post New Japan, you mean?
Post New Japan, I should say, yeah. Them being in RevPro is a bigger deal. I think I heard Naito say it was just they're looking to get US visas. It's just easier to get them for the UK because of obviously what the Trump administration is doing. So,
well, ask your Facebook dads; they'll tell you, mate. They just hand them out like sweets. That's what they do. But I feel like no one could complain. It's good. That's a really good booking. I saw that last week, obviously, when we were off, and thought, that's a good headline for RevPro. Like they've got a lot of fans and fans who feel very strongly about them. Like this isn't Sonata and Evil, it's Naito, and I think he'll definitely draw the crowd. And I think Wolverhampton's interesting. RevPro making further inroads in the Midlands. That's the company.
A lot more British
like to take over that.
Yeah. Think about it. Think about all the places they run and how often they're in the north. They don't run maybe Manchester as much as they could do at points. Because I still think
I think there's reason, but I know what you mean. Yeah.
But yeah, they've really gone all out.
Statlander Eve on Friday. That's Osprey getting her in, I guess.
Yeah. Okay. That's a hell of a way to come for the one booking, though, isn't it? For that. So
there you go. See a show. Sounds good. Brilliant stuff. Well, anything else you've been watching? Anything else to throw in? What was that?
And unless you want to throw in the and finally story in there as well. There's nothing
sorry,
else I've seen in there. this is.
Sorry, we changed the order, didn't we? And finally, we like referring back to this every now and then. It's one of my favorite little stories that I definitely I really think there was a future in this. But yeah, our finally story for the week is Freddie Flintoff in an interview this week, or podcast, wasn't it? Saying that he turned down obscene money from WWE. It wasn't recently. Apparently, it was during his first retirement from cricket. Did he come back to cricket? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Between 2010 and 2014. He'd been training with WWE after pitching an idea to Sky. We both talked about that at the time, didn't we? The reality show with, what was his name? Darren Goff?
Yeah.
Was it? Yeah. And Goff was like the one who actually looked like he was doing a few lucha rolls and stuff like that. He looked really good. I assume it was around the time of that, but yeah, Flintoff seemed to take to it quite naturally as well. But yeah, apparently got to a point in Dubai where he was unfit. He put weight on, not in a good place. He used to love WWE. He wants to fight the Undertaker in Manchester, apparently said on a League of Their Own episode. And yeah, he wrote it up, presented it to Sky, started to get momentum, got in touch with WWE, Vince McMahon, apparently a physiotherapist who sent a trainer over to Dubai for him. Anyway, yeah, he goes through the story. It's quite a long one here, but apparently he ended up breaking his ribs, I think, in training, and that's why it didn't work out for him, I believe, is the story here, JP. But yeah, WWE offered him a 3-year deal, but he ultimately turned it down as his kids didn't want to move to the US. But yeah, WWE had said he couldn't do his documentary because they'll give secrets away, but we want to have you under a contract instead. Apparently they told him, we'll fast track you, and in 18 months you'll be at WrestleMania in the Royal Rumble. Do you think that's what they told Tyler Bate? Don't think that quite worked out, did it? But yeah, he said the money was obscene, but he wanted to move back from Dubai. The kids wanted to play cricket, didn't want to go to America, so he just did the boxing fight instead. And that's how that went. Although that was in 2012, so maybe he's getting his timeline mixed up. But either way, that's how close we came, mate, to Freddie Flintoff being a WWE superstar.
Exactly.
Do you think he'd have done NXT UK first? Do you think he'd like Mariah May had done a show in front of 50 people? Probably wouldn't, would he? Probably would have.
No.
Got better.
Big star, mate. Around 2005, that bloke was honestly, yeah. he was.
Seems like a cracking bloke too. I always like him whenever he's on.
His documentary on Disney Plus, Ewan mentions here, really, really good.
About the accident.
Yeah, about the accident and stuff, but also about.
I didn't know about that until we watched Bullseye at Christmas, and I was like, "Oh, what happened to him?" I don't pay attention to tabloid news, but for someone who doesn't and who doesn't know anything about cricket, obviously I know Freddie Flintoff, you know. But you had the Americans going, "Who's that?" Bit like what's Wembley. Those types of conversations would have surely abounded.
Exactly. I mean, it wouldn't have worked out. It wouldn't have happened. But it's a mad kind of what if. For Flintoff to say, and he's good value, bless him, and I'm sure
the Samoa Joe of cricket,
the Samoa Joe of cricket in 2000, he really was. He was having a Samoa Joe run, that one in there as well.
Maybe the Samoa Joe podcast now. It's Peter Crouch.
I mean,
but anyway,
that Ashes series is very much like Ring of Honor versus CZW as well in there, except both of them are Ring of Honor, like they really are.
Oh.
Good stuff.
Well, I'll throw in as we get into plugs. Speaking of that, we did ROH versus CZW, and obviously we had the big showdown with Jim Cornette and Zandig. I got the equivalent of that from 1996, mate, on the latest Benno and Hamlet In Your House that will be out next weekend, as we review In Your House in International Incidents, as Jim Cornette and Jose Lothario have a very similar promo back and forth on the free-for-all before that show. I'd never seen it before. And Jim Cornette, to be fair, gives Jose Lothario a lot more than he gave Zandig, but I think he's got more respect for him. So that's coming out soon. Housekeeping is up if you're looking for the episodes, like Grapple. Unfortunately, purely because it shared an email address with Grapple, as did my own personal Spotify account, the show got completely taken down. We have got it back up everywhere, including Spotify, but again, under a new page. It's Henno and Bamflet, honest. No, it's under Benno and Hamlet. It is there. All the episodes are back as well. That was a little bit of an easier job because, we've only done about 16 episodes so far. All high quality, though. Whereas with Grapple, as you'll have seen if you've heard this or you found the feed again, we've just had to start again. All of the back catalogue is on Patreon if you want it, but we're starting fresh and we're not going to break any rules. Please don't kick us off Spotify because I don't think we could do with another kicking off because it's been very tough getting it back in everyone's feeds. And I'm sure we've still got listeners who just haven't noticed we've gone yet. Hopefully they notice soon and they find the feeds again and we get the numbers back. But hey ho. we'll super save the people who are here. That's
We
what
will.
we'll do.
We will. And thank you all for your support and understanding about it as well.
Yes, absolutely. I know it's a pain in the arse for everyone. It's not something we wanted, but also like, we're the faces of it, and do feel responsible for it as well. It's our own bad decisions over the years, probably flying a bit too close to the sun with the music and stuff like that. But we had a good 8-year run, JP. We did well. We did well.
We had a cracking run on that. There were some great tunes that we used on that. So
absolutely.
You live and learn.
Well, there you go. So if you want more of that, you want the back catalogue, you want the July schedule, like I say, story of the European title. Connor's King of the Mountain. He deserves one after his fine work, both on the European title show and Matty's quiz, which honestly was one of the most, we said it at the top, but one of the most fun shows we've ever done. Yeah. Everyone who's listened seems to have loved it as well. Like us doing a quiz and having a few beers, what could possibly go wrong? It was a cracking show. And like, speaking of Hamflet, we got him on the Patreon this month talking Bash 96 and then 5-1, probably an ass grapple. I don't know. Either or. We'll figure it out. And also, obviously, got all our all-in coverage coming and other such matters. But is that all the plugs done, JP? I think Retro will be out at some point once Matty managed to get going again. They'll get that up to time as from last weekend. Outside that. Oh, the other thing obviously very much worth mentioning. Obviously, we always end these shows, don't we, JP, by thanking all of our lovely patrons and thanking, of course, the patrons who've kept us going during this downtime, and more so thanking the live patrons who tune in live to us. But Kings and Queens of the Mountain, we always thank them at the end of the show. So special thank you to our new King of the Mountain, Marty Ellis, who's joined us on the King of the Mountain tier. Looking forward to getting his pick.
Marty.
He's the latest. We've got Simon's coming up as well, which is always a fun one. So his show is going to be soon, and then we'll have Marty's after that one, and obviously we've got Connor's coming up this month as well. So thank you, Marty, for joining us, and of course thank you to all the rest of our Kings and Queens of the Mountain: Connor Laughlin, Eddie Sarburns, Chris Black, Carl Gack, Sophie Hitchcock, and as I mentioned, Simon Mulvaney and Marty Ellis. We appreciate you all very much. Thank you for all your patience, and I'm going to go to bed, JP, because it's 5 a.m. Good night, everyone.
Sloan.
Was that Irish?
It is. It's for kneecap. There you go.
Well done, mate. Good night.
Good night.